Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to day 11 of the Diddy trial. I decided to start a little later this afternoon so that way we would not have so many pauses because we have to wait for updates to come in from different threads. And so this way we could jump in with day 11 and kind of really get into a lot of what has happened this morning. So, welcome to the live stream for day 11 of Diddy's trial. What we know from information that's out there as far as who should be taking the stand today, there will definitely be a LAPD officer who's taking the stand. I think somebody with the fire department will be taking the stand. Mia, which is an alias for one of Diddy's assistants, who is allegedly going to testify about things she witnessed and also things that happened to her. And then I think there's another assistant named Nash who's also supposed to be testifying today. So they're expecting to have four witnesses on the stand today. The prosecution is very hopeful that they will be able to get done with all four witnesses today. So let's just jump in to where the testimony has gone this morning, and I'm sure we'll get caught up rather quickly with where the trial currently is in real time. Okay. All right. So the government calls LAPD officer Christopher Ignacio to the stand. Prosecutor, and the prosecutor is asking the questions first. What is a radio call? Ignacio. Someone calls 911 and it gets sent to next available LAPD unit on duty. Prosecutor. On December 22nd, 2011, what was your shift? 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. in a marked police vehicle. Prosecutor. What do you remember? I got a call around 8 a.m., code 3, with lights and sirens to 8925 Hollywood Hills Road. What did you find there? An Escalade. I memorized the license plate. Prosecutor, why? I thought it could be involved in a crime the way it left as soon as we got there. Prosecutor, why didn't you go after it? We didn't have a crime yet. The front door was unlocked. We went in. Prosecutor, what did you see? LAPD officer Ignacio says high-end watches and purses, some wrapped, some unwrapped. Two detectives showed up. When we came out, I saw the same black Escalade now driving down the hill. Prosecutor, then what? Mr. Mascotti arrived in a Porsche. Okay. So far the police officer is just detailing what happened when he got there. And he did see the Escalade that Diddy and those were in. And he said he memorized the license plate. So interesting. Okay. Prosecutor, you ran the plate of the Escalade? Police officer Ignacio said yes. And it came back as Bad Boy Records. Prosecutor, no further questions. And now Brian Steele is doing the cross-examination for the defense. This was 13 years ago, right? Steele asked. Police officer and Ignacio said yes. You read your partner's report? The streets there are dead ends? Ignacio replied, according to the map. Brian Steele, it's a beautiful neighborhood, right? Cul-de-sac? Ignacio, sure. You don't follow the car as it drives away, right? Brian Steele asks. Right? Prosecutor Steele, did you see a Porsche? The reply is, I don't know. Prosecutor Steele, do you know the definition of a kidnapping? Prosecution objects. The judge sustains the objection. I'm sorry, the defense attorney Steele says, were you told the homeowner was in the house shortly before you and your partner got there? And I don't know. I felt like in the lines above when I was talking about Steele, I may have said prosecutor. If I did, that's a mistake. Brian Steele is working for the defense, so my apologies with that. So defense attorney Steele, Were you told the homeowner was in the house shortly before you and your partner got there? Prosecutor objects, judge overrules. Uh, Defense attorney still says the door was unlocked. Uh, Ignacio replies yes. Defense attorney still says there was no furniture upended, right? Ignacio says no. Defense still says you called it a trespass, not a burglary, right? Because prosecutor objects. Judge said, I think I sustained. Brian Steele says, no report of theft. Ignacio says, no. Defense attorney says, if you thought there was a gun in the Escalade, you could have put out a BOLO, right? Prosecutor objects. The judge overrules. Defense attorney says, but you didn't, right? Ignacio says, right. Defense attorney says, any mention of security cameras? Ignacio said, I saw some. Defense attorney says, Mr. Mescudi wasn't hyperventilating, right? Ignacio said, he was tense, I'd say. Defense attorney, did you search his Porsche? Ignacio said, no. Defense attorney, it was 8:20 a.m., not 6:30 a.m., right? Right. Defense attorney, nothing further. And there's no redirect. Okay, that went rather quickly. Okay, so the next witness up, and I don't really know from that what we really got from that, but let's keep going. So the government calls L.A. arson investigator Lance Jimenez on the stand. Prosecutor, how many fires have you investigated? And Jimenez says 100 a year. Everything between mansions. Okay, just 1 second, y'all. Just need to make sure my audio is working appropriately. Okay, good. So back to the prosecutor said, did you respond as I'm sorry, when he was asked, when the officer was asked, the LA arson investigator, how many fires have you investigated by the prosecutor? He responded 100 a year, everything between mansions to dumpster fires. LA is pretty crazy. Prosecutor, did you respond as an expert to an auto fire at 8925 Hollywood Hills Road? The arson investigator said, yes, there was a cut in the roof of the Porsche. Prosecutor, what about inside the Porsche? Uh, the arson investigator said there were burn patterns inside. Prosecutor, any items? There was a bottle on the front seat. A handkerchief burned a lighter on the ground. Prosecutor, what hypothesis did you draw? The arson investigator said Molotov cocktail. Prosecutor, how did you think it got in? Someone lit it, cut the roof, and dropped it in. Prosecutor, let me show you some photos. This is the black Porsche that was burned. The arson investigator said, yes. Prosecutor, what kind of bottle was used? Arson investigator said an Old English 800 malt liquor bottle was used. Prosecutor, and the wick, a designer type scarf, silky. In my opinion, this was targeted. Prosecutor, the partial DNA profile, was it consistent with a female contributor? The arson investigator said, I was told that. Prosecutor, do you know what it means? The arson investigator said, no. Prosecutor, do you know if it is possible to touch an item without leaving DNA? The defense objects and the judge sustains the objection. Prosecutor, what happened to the print cards? The arson investigator said they were destroyed in 2012. Prosecutor, on whose orders? The arson investigator said someone in LAPD. Prosecutor, not you or anyone on your team? The defense attorney says, I'm going to object to all of this. Can we have a sidebar? The judge said, okay. So they went into a sidebar at that point. The defense objecting to the prosecutor's line of questioning. And then after a long sidebar, they come back and the judge then said, "We are trying to sync up. Why don't we take a break?" So he sends the jury on a quick break. It says Combs exited too with marshals into the holding cell. Uh, the defense attorney says, "Let me get him." Combs is brought back in. Judge, what is the purpose of getting into that? They are questioning the investigation, so we're entitled to ask this. Now, this is a lot of back and forth at this point with the lawyers and with the judge. The jury has been sent out on a break, and Diddy had went out, but then they brought him back in. Let's see. The judge said, when I heard the questions, I assumed there was going to be a line of cross examination about the fingerprint cards, like about the DNA, but that does not appear to be the case. So I'm thinking of telling the jurors to disregard. The defense attorney said, this is outrageous. Defense attorney said, we are considering what remedies to ask for. Let me speak with my colleague. They implied that someone in this courtroom was responsible for the destruction of the fingerprint cards. Prosecutor, they intend to attack the investigation. Now, I don't know what's so up in arms about that, because wouldn't the defense want to attack the investigation to some extent? So the judge called a recess. When they came back, the judge said, my intent is to strike from the record any testimony about the fingerprint cards and the destruction of them. I will note that the only answers were that the witness knew about the destruction. I sustained the objection to if it was abnormal. Defense attorney says, we are going to move for a mistrial at this time based on the prosecutorial misconduct that has occurred. Some prospective jurors said Mr. Combs could buy his way out. This type of conspiracy is out there, and this bought into it. Defense attorney continues on to say, they should have ended with when the fingerprint cards were destroyed, but they asked, did he authorize it? There's no way to unring this bell. The only proper remedy here is a mistrial. Prosecutor said that's absolutely unwarranted. Wow. Okay, so the defense at this point is arguing that there should be a mistrial granted because the prosecutor went too far with asking questions about the fingerprint cards, almost implying that they somehow mysteriously got destroyed, and indicating that if they did get destroyed, it would have been Diddy pulling strings with his power and with his connections. And the defense said someone on the jury, I guess when they were interviewing them in the beginning, had already said that, and I don't think they selected that person, but they were saying that somebody who was being interviewed for the jury said, the thought is that Diddy could buy his way out of anything with his money and power. So they're just using that to say this has prejudiced the jury in a way that's unacceptable. So they are asking for a mistrial, which they're not going to get, but they're asking for a mistrial. Okay, so again, the defense attorney says they should have ended with when the fingerprint cards were destroyed, but they asked, did he authorize it? There's no way to unring this bell. The only proper remedy here is a mistrial. Prosecutor, that's absolutely unwarranted. It was Mr. Agnifilo who wanted to inquire into the DNA, into the investigation, Your Honor. Your Honor can just say that the jurors should not draw any inference from the destruction of the fingerprint cards. The judge said application for a mistrial is denied. The judge also said, I sustained the objections when arised. The jurors have already been told that questions are not evidence. Defense attorney said, Your Honor should tell the juror that questions were improper. Prosecutor said they were not improper. You could say disregard both. Okay, so they're going at it about that question. Wow. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. Just a moment, because I know there's a lot more connected to this thread. And okay, yeah, here we go. All right, so The defense attorney said, "Will the court tell the jurors that the answers are not to be considered?" The judge said, "I'll tell them that the questions and answers on the fingerprints are irrelevant to this case and not to be considered." The defense attorney said, "Thank you, Your Honor." Okay, so now the jury is back in. Judge says, "Jurors, the questions and answers on the fingerprints are irrelevant to this case and are not to be considered by you. Please proceed." Prosecutor, did you interview the owner of the Porsche? The arson investigator said, Scott Muscuddy. Prosecutor, did you reach out to others? I reached out to an assistant. Her name was Capricorn. Defense attorney said, "I'm going to object." Judge, rephrase. Prosecutor, who did you reach out to? The arson investigator said he reached out to Capricorn Clark and Cassie Ventura. Prosecutor, did Capricorn respond or assist? The arson investigator said no. How did you reach out to Cassie? The arson investigator said wasn't able by phone, tried through a family member. Did you reach her? Never. Were charges brought? No, but I never closed the case. It's listed as inactive. Prosecutor, nothing further. Okay, so before we get into the cross-examination by the defense of the arson investigator, is it just me? Or is this we're too maybe influenced by what we see on TV? But is it not weird that there's an arson situation and the police and also the arson investigator are trying to get in touch with folks to talk to them? Capricorn Clark and Cassie. Capricorn Clark said they called her. She hung up on them because she just wanted it all to be over. Is it just me that feels like weird and abnormal? So when do police and an arson investigator stop pursuing, connecting with witnesses to talk about something and they just drop it and let it go? That, hey, that just feels weird to me. That just feels weird to me. So we'll see if something else comes up in this trial to explain that. But that just seems weird to me that the arson investigator would try to reach out to Capricorn Clark, try to reach out to Cassie, don't really get any feedback from them. He leaves the case open, but doesn't really pursue the investigation, and the police don't either. That just feels weird to me. It feels as if they dropped it. And yeah, a natural thought is that they dropped it probably because Diddy had some kind of influence with somebody to help it be quote unquote dropped. Okay, so back to the thread from inside the court. The judge asked the defense if they want to cross-examine the arson investigator. So the defense attorney asks the arson investigator, there was a DNA hit on the glass bottle for female DNA, correct? The arson investigator said yes. Defense attorney, do you remember when the results came back? Maybe 6 months. The test on the bottle, it was important? The arson investigator said yes. Defense attorney, what does it mean, partial DNA female? I have no idea. I was told if we had a suspect, we could test against it. Defense attorney, any other DNA on the bottle? The prosecutor objects. The judge says rephrase. Defense attorney, DX852, just for the witness. So I don't know what that is. Maybe that's the description on an exhibit. The defense attorney says, your premise was that the Molotov cocktail was dropped. Did you think the person who dropped it would have worn a glove? Perhaps, said the arson investigator. It would have been hot, the defense attorney asked. The arson investigator said only the wick would have been hot. The damage is on both sides of the bottle, right? The arson investigator said, looks like it. Did Mr. Muscuddy have more than one Porsche? The arson investigator said, I think he had a second one in the garage. Defense attorney, why isn't it in your report? Arson investigator said, because it was not involved. The defense attorney then asks, you were able to reach Capricorn Clark or Cassie Ventura. When did you reach out? The arson investigator said, in the first few weeks. Defense attorney, are you sure? Tell us everything about these calls. I believe Capricorn's brother answered, and we disagreed. Defense attorney, and we disagreed. That's weird. Okay. Because Capricorn Clark said when they called her, she hung up on them. Defense attorney, and once Mr. Muscati told you it was his glove, you didn't investigate the glove anymore, correct? Arson investigator, I did not. Anything further? And so nothing further was from the defense. Okay, now the prosecutor is back up for redirect of the arson investigator. When did you speak with Mr. Muscati? Same day. And then the prosecutor said nothing further. Okay, so that's two witnesses down. The defense attorney tried to get a mistrial on the witness or the questions that was being asked of the arson investigator around the fingerprint card. And they felt like it was an implication that the fingerprint card was destroyed, and implied that if it were destroyed, then Diddy would have had something to do with it, like pulling strings. So they tried to get a mistrial on that. The judge, of course, denied the mistrial. He just advised the jury to disregard that information, and it is not to be considered by them. And so that's the biggest thing that has happened out of the two witnesses we've had so far. So the next witness up is Deonte Nash. Deonte Nash is there under subpoena, and I believe he is someone who once worked with Diddy, or he might be an escort. So we're about to find out. So anyway, judge calls for the next witness. The prosecutor says the government calls Deonte Nash. Are you here under subpoena? Yes. Do you want to be here? Absolutely not. What's your work? Celebrity stylist. In 2008 for Puff and Cassie is what Nash replied. Prosecutor, how'd you get hired to work for them? Through a Craigslist ad for Bad Boy Entertainment. Prosecutor, this photo, is it a fair and accurate portrayal of how you looked at the time? Nash replied, not even close. It's a glamour shot? Yes, I look amazing. So he's probably very entertaining for the court. I can tell by just how this is reading. Prosecutor, how often would you witness Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura interact? At least once a week. What did Mr. Combs call Miss Ventura? Whoa, bitch, hoe, CC, baby girl, slut. Okay, Nash is wide open this morning, y'all. Deonte Nash is wide open, okay? And Deonte Nash was the stylist for Bad Boy Entertainment. So I think specific for Diddy and Cassie, as he said. But let's go back. Prosecutor asked Nash, what did Mr. Combs call Miss Ventura? Bitch, hoe, CC, baby girl, slut. He would call her an outright hoe, a slut, anytime. Prosecutor, how did she react? Nash said, sad. Prosecutor, did Mr. Combs make threats? Yes. That he would beat her ass, that he'd send her sex tapes out. Okay, Nash. I got to find a picture of this Nash guy. Prosecutor, how often would he say he would beat her ass? Quite a few. It drove her crazy. She would be super emotional. She might stay in the house for days. Prosecutor, how often did Mr. Combs say you could not go out with his permission? Twice. The first time we went to a gay club with Kyle and Adrian. Then we went to her LA apartment. Puff called and told her she better bring her ass to his house. She panicked. Okay. Prosecutor said, what did you understand Mr. Combs was saying? The defense objects. The judge overrules. Nash replies, she packed her stuff and went to her house. Prosecutor, did you attend a Vanity Fair party? Yes. Oscars after party in 2014 with Cassie. Puff was there. Prosecutor, how did she look? She looked bomb. Her hair was... The defense objects. The judge overrules. Nash continues with his response. Her hair was long. Puff picked me up and threatened me. I pinned her hair up. What? Okay, we have got to go over to the CNN side and see if we could get more context on what is being said right now. All right, prosecutor said, did she record music? Nash said, often. Prosecutor, what was your role? I helped pick songs. I probably should have been called an exec. The defense objects. The judge sustains the objection. Prosecutor, her mixtape, was it ever sold? Nash, no, it was put out for free, but it did well, a top download. Okay. Prosecutor, how much of her music was released? Nash replied, I'm being generous to say 10%. Prosecutor, that would be a good place to break. Okay, so they went on a break at that point. And I am going to skip over and just see what I can see from CNN on Nash's testimony, because that was a little lit. And CNN normally provides more context around the testimony. So let me just scroll up real quick on the CNN side and see if I can find anything there that will let us know a little bit more about Mr. Nash, the stylist, because he is, yeah, you could tell he sounds like he was ready. He said he didn't want to be there. He had to be subpoenaed to be there, but he sounds like he is, he sounds like he wanted to be there. Okay, so just going through the CNN notes, we know that the defense already tried to get a mistrial. They were denied. Yes, we know, we know, we know. Let's see if we have anything else here. I know they got to have something about Mr. Nash. Okay, yeah, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Here we go. Okay. All right. Deonte Nash said he began working with Sean Diddy Combs and Cassie around 2008. He said he was an intern in the fashion department at Bad Boy Entertainment, Combs' entertainment company, before becoming a stylist. Nash said he stopped working for Combs around 2018. The assistant U.S. attorney showed Deonte Nash, a celebrity stylist and friend of Cassie, a headshot of himself. Okay, we read that on the Twitter thread. He laughed and said, "No, it didn't look like him." Said Cassie looked amazing. Okay, we got all of that. Let's see. Deonte Nash is describing some of the times when he said Diddy Combs threatened Cassie. Nash testified that on multiple occasions he heard Combs tell Ventura that he would beat her ass. Ventura would be super emotional after these incidents, he said. She would cry. Sometimes she would just stay in the house for days and go in a cocoon. Nash said he heard Combs making other threats towards Ventura, including telling her he would not release her music and threatening to get her parents fired from their jobs. Combs also threatened to send sexually explicit videos of Ventura. Nash said Combs would threaten not to release Ventura's music anytime she did something he did not like. Deonte Nash said he had to send all photos of Cassie's outfits to Combs for approval. He would pick which one he liked, and that was usually the one we went with. Deonte Nash said he attended a party in 2014 with Cassie Ventura. She looked bomb. Her hair was down. When they arrived, Nash said Diddy grabbed him by the jacket and lifted him up. Nash testified that Combs told him Ventura's hair needed to be worn up. Nash then asked people for hairpins and told Ventura to go to the bathroom with other staff to fix her hair. Nash said Combs admitted to him later that night that Ventura's hair looked better down. Diddy is crazy. Diddy, I know that's not a news flash, but Diddy is crazy. You lifted the stylist up off the ground. You lifted him up because you didn't like the way Cassie's hair was and told him the hair needed to be put up. And they rushed to the bathroom to put the hair up. Yeah, he is wow. Okay. So let's see. Let me go back to the Twitter feed to see what else was going on. And I don't know if too much more happened after that, but let's see. How much of a music release? We talked about that. Nash said he thought it was 10%. He was being generous about that. Then they went on a break. So that is all that has happened this morning, y'all. That is really not a whole lot that has happened this morning. 3 witnesses in. Now they took a break with Nash still on the stand. So when they return, he'll be there. But that is really not a whole lot. Let's check out what this post is here. That is on CNN while they're on lunch break. Okay, so because this is something that you remember, the first exotic dancer who called himself the Punisher. Well, he has released an apology to Cassie. So let's check out what that is about. I think he's also, well, I know he's also the one who released the book Freezer Meat that is supposedly about erectile dysfunction. Child, this you just can't make this stuff up. I'm like, y'all just doing the most. Okay, let's go to that article and just see what it's about while the court is on lunch break at the moment. Let me share my screen. And I think I should be firing more on all cylinders right now because I had a big cup of coffee before I jumped on this live, but I don't know. I don't think it's fully kicked in yet. All right, so let's see this article here. All right. So this guy is the Punisher. That's a nickname that he has, and he claims he got that nickname from basketball. Okay, so exotic dancer involved in freak-offs offers apology to Cassie Ventura. Sheree Hayes, an exotic dancer who testified he was involved in the freak-offs with Diddy and Cassie, offered an apology to Ventura in an interview on CNN. CNN's Laura Coates asked Hayes what he would say to Ventura now that he has heard her account about how she felt about the freak-offs. Quote, I would apologize. I would apologize because I had no idea or no indication that she was, or no indication what she was going through, Hayes said. And if you know, obviously my involvement kind of furthered her suffering. Just the thought of partaking in a scenario where a woman is possibly being abused is tough to hear. So, I would just apologize to her and tell her I was really remorseful and regret if I contributed to a bad experience for her. Hayes also told Coates that at the time he believed Combs and Ventura were a happy couple who just had a sexual fetish. He also said he never witnessed them showing affection during the freak-offs or really interact in front of him. Remember last week, Hayes testified while under cross-examination from the defense, he didn't get any cues that there was a discomfort with what was going on from Cassie, saying as an exotic dancer, he always reads the room to gauge audience comfortability. And during his encounters with the pair, he never saw any filming or violence, Hayes said. Okay, so all right. So he apologizes to Cassie, but I think perhaps more damage to the prosecution was probably done by him saying what apparently is his truth, that at the time when he was engaged in these freak-offs with Diddy and Cassie, he didn't see any discomfort, and he thought that everybody who was participating were enjoying it. So that's his testimony. Let's see, the judge was, everybody is on lunch right now. And I'm going to scroll through quickly and see if there's anything else that maybe we could tap into. I think the testimony this morning is very mild in comparison to what we had going on yesterday with Capricorn Clark. Let's see. Judge says he'll instruct jury. Okay. So maybe I'll go back and read that because that is where Diddy's attorneys tried to go for a mistrial. All right. So yeah, this it's just not. Yeah, and that one isn't a full update because now we've heard from 3 witnesses. So today we have heard from uh, Christopher Ignacio, a Los Angeles police officer, and Lance Jimenez, who is a Los Angeles Fire Department arson investigator. We still haven't gotten any closer from that testimony about the DNA. Like, is it a female? Who is it possibly linked to, or anything much further? I still find it very interesting that people could just say, I don't want to, I don't want to talk to you, and then they're not talked with. I find that odd in an arson case. Um, so let's just go over what we know this far from this update on CNN. Okay, so mistrial motion denied. The defense moved for a mistrial, claiming prosecutorial misconduct, citing LAFD arson investigator Jimenez's testimony that fingerprint evidence taken from Kid Cudi's home after a December 2011 trespassing incident was destroyed. A defense attorney, Mark Ignafilo, said the prosecution's implications within that questioning were outrageous. The prosecutor said a mistrial was absolutely unwarranted. The judge denied the mistrial motion and instructed the jury that the questions regarding the destruction of the fingerprint cards and the answers given are irrelevant to this case and this defendant and are not to be considered by you. Now, let's talk about that. Where are the fingerprint cards? Well, we know they don't exist because the fingerprint cards have been destroyed, right? But if the judge is saying that the jury should he instructed the jury that the questions regarding the destruction of the fingerprint cards and the answers given are irrelevant to the case. Okay, maybe I could see that because, like, the speculation is implying that maybe somebody has something to do with it being destroyed. And the main thing that the jury is going to take away is that those fingerprint cards don't exist anymore. What happened to them? Okay, nobody knows. The judge isn't going to allow them to do anything to speculate what happened to them because nobody knows. But the bottom line is that the fingerprint cards no longer exist from the incident with Kid Cudi's Porsche. Okay. Okay. What do you think at least some of the people on that jury are thinking about that or will think about that? What do you think they'll think? I think at least a couple are probably thinking, why did the fingerprint cards disappear? And Diddy probably reached out to some of his connects and made sure that evidence was destroyed. I would be willing to bet money that at least a couple of people on that jury are thinking that. Okay. So after the break, Jimenez returned to the stand and said he made multiple unsuccessful attempts to make contact with Capricorn Clark and Cassie Ventura during his investigation within a couple of months after the January 2012 Kid Cudi car fire. He testified that after several calls to Clark, her brother answered and told the investigator to leave her alone. Jimenez also said he made contact with Ventura's father, but he wasn't helpful. So is there just like what is this? Is this like different LA rules, different rules for entertainers, or what? I'm not understanding. If you as an arson investigator know that you need to speak to Capricorn Clark and you need to speak to Cassie, how do they just get to say, I'm not going to speak to you? I don't understand. And the defense didn't push back on that. So maybe maybe that was their right to do that, because I'm surprised that, I don't know. That is just weird to me. That two people who are needed for an arson investigation basically say, we're not talking, or we don't want to talk. Stop trying to talk to us. And they're never spoken with. I think that's weird. I think that's weird. Okay, so the celebrity stylist who is on the stand now, before they went on lunch break, Deonte Nash, was the third witness to take the stand and said he was testifying under subpoena and did not want to be there. Nash testified that he started working for Combs and Ventura around 2008, starting as an intern and later becoming a stylist. Nash testified that on multiple occasions, he heard Combs tell Ventura that he would beat her ass. Ventura would be super emotional after these incidents, he said. Other threats included not releasing Ventura's music or threatening to get her parents fired from their jobs. The stylist also testified that all photos of Ventura's outfits needed to be sent to Combs for approval. Okay. Okay. Now, when this whole thing came up by someone else before about Diddy, it came up with Cassie, in fact, when she was on the stand, about Diddy having to approve her looks or giving advice on her looks, what fit she has on, makeup, hair, all the things. I think the defense tried to say that, well, Diddy is a fashion icon. So when he was doing that, he wasn't being overzealous, and he wasn't being an oppressor or anything like that. He was just giving her his expert opinion because he is a fashion icon. Now, nobody believes that. Not that I don't think not one person on that jury believes that. Okay. Not with all this other stuff we got going on with Diddy. Nobody believes that. But that is how they tried to position it. So to see the stylist, Deonte Nash, say that Diddy had to be sent photos of Ventura's outfits and they needed his approval. Yeah. I think that is yet one more negative thing about Diddy. So, but again, so far, if I go by what I've heard so far by these three witnesses today, I don't know what I don't think we necessarily got anything was said, okay, good. That's a slam dunk, or either any testimony from the police officer or the arson investigator this morning that was anything profound. I didn't hear it. Deonte Nash, who is on the stand right now, is very entertaining. He's very entertaining. For someone who said he didn't want to be there, he is giving a lot of energy like he really wanted to be there. And he's not mincing words at all, saying that, what did you hear Diddy call her? What names would he call her? And he just started rattling off the names. He'd call her a bitch, a hoe, a slut, CC, baby girl. I mean, he was rattling off the names. So he's entertaining. But I would say there are only going to be 4 witnesses on the stand today. We're on number 3 right now on the stand. And as of now, I'm not walking away with any testimony that I feel like is doing anything significant. Anybody who's testifying at this point to tell us that Diddy treated Cassie badly as far as how he talked to her, how he would abuse her and that type of thing, that box is so well checked that in my opinion, they don't even need to talk about that anymore. I mean, like, okay, yes. Yes. And yes, that box has been checked. Period. Period. So I am really, really looking for, like I've been looking for on previous days, I am looking for on day 11 to hear more about how was this a criminal organization right now. And I do think Capricorn Clark uh, supported that a little bit yesterday in her testimony, especially with the kidnapping, a couple of kidnappings, in fact, and different things that went on with the whole Kid Cudi situation. I know there's some communication out there about people feeling as if her um, recall of the incident when she was at Diddy's house did not perfectly align with Kid Cudi's recall of what happened when, with that whole thing. I don't think there has to be perfect alignment. I think if there's like major, major, major things that are different, then maybe that might make a juror look at the stories a little funny. But I think they matched enough on the significant things. So I think Capricorn Clark helped yesterday with the kidnapping incidents to kind of start, supporting a criminal organization. But today, like so many of the other days before it, I am not seeing I am just not seeing the things that I think we should be seeing in order to say, yes, Diddy did all of these things. He committed these crimes, and these crimes are in support of a criminal organization, which is what is needed to be shown in order to prove the racketeering charge. Now, for the sex trafficking charge, they have to show and they have to prove coercion. They might be, I guess, I guess in some ways, maybe better on that side with the jury because the jury, whether it's right or not, will definitely connect a lot of the domestic violence stuff to coercion, and they will then try to perhaps apply that to the freak off situations and were they consensual or were they not. They may even start saying, well, it's not a blanket thing here, right? Because we heard testimony from Cassie and we saw some of the stuff that Cassie and Diddy shared and messages and so on. So we know that some of these freak offs were consensual, but there is a question on the table about, but she is saying that they were not all consensual. What the jury is going to do with that is anybody's guess. But I do think in a situation like that, like the elevator videotape, I think that could support for some of the people on the jury coercion, just from the simple fact that when she was leaving the hotel that day, there was a freak off that was underway or had taken place. But as Cassie said, they were in between sessions when she was trying to leave. So they see on the tape him grab her, throw her down, kick her, drag her back towards the room. So I could see how they could connect those dots. The other part about proving racketeering, I think they still need more to support that these criminal things that people are testifying about, they have to show that these criminal things are connected to a criminal organization to support the racketeering charges. And that's the piece where it's still kind of like, okay, um, you're not the government, in my opinion, is not making it easy for us to get there. So the only people, of course, that the government cares about are the 12 people on that jury. And if we, maybe the society at large, is somewhat reflective of that jury, then I would say that the government still has a lot of work to do to show that beyond Diddy just being a horrible person, a woman beater, a freaky to the nth degree, you know what, um, they have a lot of work to do to show how any of that is supporting a criminal organization. So what is it? We're in week 3. So this is supposed to be an 8-week trial. I think the prosecution said that they would need, I think they started out saying they were going to need 6 weeks, but this week they said they might only need 5 weeks. So that means then that the prosecution might finish their part a week early. So this trial, if the defense only takes 2 weeks, then this trial might end a week early. And I'm just saying we're not, in my opinion, we're not there yet on the government side as far as presenting information to support a racketeering charge. Because where is the criminal enterprise? Has Diddy committed a whole lot of crimes based off of this testimony? Yes. Are those crimes associated with running a criminal enterprise? This is the question. And right now, I don't really see it. I see a crazy, unhinged, unstable man who's doing a whole lot of things that is criminal based off of the testimony, but it is not connected back to a criminal enterprise. We haven't seen that yet. So it's going to be interesting to see what we see over the next few days, because like I said, it's not Diddy may end up in jail just like Capone, where they couldn't get you on the things you were really guilty of, like the domestic violence. That's not a charge. It would have been a state charge. I don't know if the statute of limitations ran out, but they didn't get you on that charge. But they're going to get you on whatever they can get you on. Because make no mistake about it now, there are some things that I feel like, okay, I think the jury will have no problem convicting him of kidnapping. I think the jury will, I don't know, the jury might have a problem with the arson thing, because I don't think there was enough evidence to really point to Diddy did it, right? Don't know about that. I feel certain, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that Diddy is definitely going to prison. For which charges and for how long, those to me are the only questions on the table, right? Are they going to be able to find him guilty of the racketeering charge? If I went by what we've seen thus far, I would say no. But other things like the kidnapping and the arson, and he's not charged with DV, but other things, he's going to prison. So it's just a matter of which charges will he be found guilty of, okay? And for how much time? For how much time? But like I said, that racketeering charge, though, they have yet to provide evidence to show that all this shit that this man is doing, they have yet to connect that though to a criminal organization. You have to show that all these things this man is doing is in furtherance of a criminal organization. And we have not seen that yet. So I don't know, based off of where we are right now, if that jury had to make a decision right now, I don't know how they would find him guilty of racketeering. I just don't know how they would get there. But like I said, there are other charges, though, that I think they can get there rather easily. Kidnapping. Arson to me has a question mark on it, but depends on how the jury sees it. I don't think they presented evidence to show that Diddy did it. Now, do I think Diddy had something to do with it? I think it's highly likely Diddy had something to do with it. I think Diddy did it. But you got to have proof. You can't just go by what you think, right? So that's why I say if the decision were to be made today, I will feel certain that Diddy's going to get some prison time, but I don't know for sure which charges and for how long, because one of the biggest charges, racketeering, in my opinion, they have yet to provide us with enough information to say that this is connected. These activities are connected to the furtherance of a criminal organization, which is a part of a racketeering charge. So, like I said, the government, in my opinion, they have a whole lot of work to do. So while we're waiting for the court to return from lunch break, let's tap in right now to Law and Crime and see what they're talking about. And I'll be back in a sec.
A good idea to apologize for him appearing to beat Cassandra Ventura. I don't know what he was thinking because he essentially admitted it was him and he forfeited any argument to make that, oh, that video was doctored. It's not me. I mean, he admitted it. And I don't know what he would say if he was on the stand. Sure, he testified in his prior trial, Ashley, right? 25 years ago, but very different circumstances.
Very different circumstances, and I will dare say that during the J-Lo Diddy phase, I lived through that. I was reporting during that time, and many years before that, but he was still beloved. He was still Diddy. He was J-Lo's boyfriend. He was massive. He was larger than life, and we didn't know, a fraction of what we think we know now. And so it was a different story. It was a different case. That's the kind of case where maybe you do roll the dice and you put your client on the stand. But again, this is a situation where, again, even if he's not guilty of all the crimes he's charged with, he is 100% guilty of being a despicable human being. I mean, honestly, Capricorn Clark saying she was paid $65,000 a year and the kinds of things she was being forced to do as an assistant. Again, I'm not even convicting him here. I'm saying cleaning up these foul and disgusting hotel rooms, which all the assistants were tasked with doing. Um, and then, losing her hair. Uh,
Okay, and I'm just gonna hop in to say in here to say that I kind of feel like what she's saying is proving the point I just made. Is he a despicable and disgusting person? I think a lot of people will walk away from what we heard and say unequivocally yes. Is he guilty of a lot of things? We will say yes, he's definitely guilty of domestic violence. We saw the videotape. Unfortunately, that's not one of his charges. Do we believe Capricorn Clark when she said she was kidnapped? I believe her. I think many people on the jury are going to believe her. So, yes, he's guilty of those things. But where is the evidence to show that these things that he was doing, him being a butthole, where are the things and being a criminal, because these things are also criminal that he was doing, but where is the thread that connects those incidents to showing that these things were done in furtherance of a criminal organization?
to a stress related disorder that she got from working so hard under such stressful conditions. These are the kinds of things that will follow Diddy forever, not to mention the gross aspect of his sex predilections, right? Just the freaky, kinky nature of what got him off. Those are also things that he will be a punchline for a long time, but he will be despised for even longer.
And look, the defense is probably concerned that the jury could make a decision based on anger, not even looking at the elements of the crimes, but they might look at it and say, my gosh, there's
It
tape of
happens.
him beating him. They're beating Cassandra Ventura. There's photographs. Listen to all the testimony. Look at the text messages. Look what's being described. That's a concern for the defense. Okay, got a question for you, William. Jesse, this is from Savannah Mata. Jesse, I'm so confused about victim 3. She's missing, and people assume she's missing because she doesn't want to testify. Is it not suspicious and convenient for Diddy that she's gone? Well, here's the interesting thing about this, William, and I'll throw it to you. First of all, little self-promotion. We have a sidebar coming out right about this today. We believe this is Gina. Gina has come up a lot during the course of this trial. The defense has seemed to suggest that Gina was a source of a conflict in the relationship between Cassie and Combs, that she was jealous of Gina. So the defense hasn't shied away from what role she might play in this, but the prosecution, and there was a back and forth last week about it, where Mark Agnifilo, who's defense counsel for Sean Combs, said she's not showing up. She's not coming in. And the prosecution says, no, she's very much a part of this case. She's victim 3, right? She's a part of this case in the indictment. It's part of the racketeering charge, that she's one of the people who've been abused. I think Gina actually did an interview several years ago where she claims she was abused by Combs. She was forced to have abortion. So she's a pivotal witness. But I guess the question is, going back to what we just heard from Savannah Mata, isn't it weird that she's not showing up? Is it good for Sean Combs' defense? Is it convenient? What do you think about it, William?
So I think it cuts both ways. Obviously, as Ashley said before, there's a lot of evidence here already. There really is. I agree with what Ashley said in the beginning of the show, that I think that RICO has been proven over and over and over again in this case. So whether or not a third victim comes to court, I think to some extent is irrelevant. I think that the government would obviously like to have her testimony because I think she is going to continue to buttress their case. I think she's going to talk about things that she was forced into doing and things that had happened to her, and that's very important. I think if she does not testify, I think that's good for the defense. I think that anything that can chip away at the government's case is helpful, but I actually think that while it's good for the defense, I don't think it seals the deal in any shape, way, or form.
Got a super chat question from 1989. Thank you so much for the super chat question. I'll throw this to you, Tyler. Greetings, panel. For someone who was a big part of Sean Combs' life, why is Miss Coram, Diddy's right-hand woman, quiet? Do you think she took a deal with the feds and will testify soon? So this is, again, regarding Christina Coram, who we believe is Combs' chief of staff. I believe she's already come up several times during the course of this trial. We know she's come up in prior litigation facing Combs. What do you think, Tyler?
Well, there's still no telling if she took a deal for the prosecution. It's possible that she's been interviewed already, and they know she may not have anything really substantial to further their case. It's still too early to tell. She could be called. She may not be called. But, as the prior panelists just said, Diddy has 99 problems here. One less witness helps him out by not having to deal with that. But there's still 98 other problems he has to deal with. So she seems like a crucial witness, but I think the prosecution has ample bullets in their gun to keep moving forward with points that are really making an impact on Mr. Combs possibly being convicted.
I don't know, for a racketeering charge, if you're talking about the inner workings of the criminal enterprise and she's right at the center of it, I think she's definitely will have to testify, and obviously will have to explain if she took some sort of immunity deal or a proffer agreement. But Tyler, got one more question from you. This is from Rusty Minnick. This is for you specifically. Really interesting question. Can they prove forced labor? Again, one of the underlying crimes for racketeering. Can they prove forced labor with not releasing Cassie's others' music? That's an interesting question.
It's an interesting question. And I think there's been a lot of testimony offered regarding the coercion, some of the mental abuse and verbal abuse and different mechanisms to force Cassie or Ms. Ventura to stay in a relationship with Mr. Combs. And I do think the aspect of her being signed to the record label, whether that is delays in albums being released or let's say not shooting videos or not releasing albums when they were anticipated to be released, is an aspect of her wanting to stay into this relationship, non-consensual seeming relationship with Mr. Combs, he has the prosecution, based off all these different pressure points that he was able to exploit. So I do think they can use the fact of music being postponed and look at the lack of music that was actually released by her throughout her time being signed to Bad Boy as an aspect of showing that she was forced to do these acts for Mr. Combs.
Talking about people who might testify, Ashley, going over to you. This is a question from Carol Omura. Whatever happened to the drug mule Brendan Paul that was arrested at Miami Opelika Airport? Is he not of importance?
Well, if you ask me, I would think he's of critical importance because drug trafficking is one of the, again, predicate acts that you can prove. I think there's 37. There's 35, I think, state and 37 federal, or vice versa. I always get them mixed up. But that's the number of available predicate acts that you have under the RICO statute. But honestly, I mean, again, I keep coming back to just being kind of exhausted under the weight of all the different moments of testimony that I've heard that prove these elements. I don't even think you need drug trafficking at this point, but I certainly already heard a couple of assistants saying that they were dispatched to call a drug dealer, go get the drugs, pay for the drugs with, I think, Diddy money, come back, bring the drugs back, look inside the bag, see that it's MDMA, and then see that the drugs are actually disseminated among other, staff members, friends, family, partygoers, freak-off goers. So I'm not so sure that you even need that particular witness, but it's kind of like Gina. Yeah, it would be helpful. Do you need it? I'm not so sure.
Yeah, especially when the photographs were introduced into evidence of what was found in his hotel room when he was ultimately arrested in New York, what was found in his
closet
mansion. Yep. I'm still, by the way, Ashley, confused about the allegation that there were phones stuffed in a shoe or shoes. That was an interesting little tidbit about that.
Right? Unless you don't want someone you love or know to find those phones. I'm not so sure that you're hiding them from the police, because why would you have all that other extraordinarily damning evidence just lying about, especially the box with puff on it containing allegedly mushrooms? I think that's more, I'm hiding these from people I don't want to have these.
So one of the things that I love about doing this lunchtime show, other than the fact that I get to have a great panel of guests and take everybody's questions.
But I don't know how any of what they just said shows that this is a criminal organization. The baby oil, the phones that were found in the house. I mean, in the hotel room. And then the stuff they found when they raided the home in Miami. I am still not seeing how any of this shows that it's connected to a criminal organization.
Is because there are no cameras in that courtroom, because there's no audio equipment in that courtroom, we are back live, but we're going to report to you in real time what is happening. We can break this down for you in real time, this live reporting. So the jury is well, they're back. And before the jury and the witness, Deonte Nash, were brought in, the prosecutor says, we want to show Mr. Nash a photo of this afternoon's witness, Mia, who we've heard about in opening statements, another alleged victim, without the screen in the gallery showing the photographs. So let's see what the back and forth is about that. But again, we're going to break down the real-time reporting, the real-time updates in this courtroom for you as this develops. Now, I want to go to you, William. Great question from Shop Girl. All the questions are great, but this one's really interesting. This is a Jesse question, but again, I'm going to throw it to William. Does the investigator not checking DNA on the glove show how incompetent LA investigators were in this case? And just to provide a little context, there was testimony earlier today regarding Kid Cudi and whether this glove that may or may not be connected to the destruction of his car, the arson of his car, that it wasn't tested for DNA. Did it belong to Kid Cudi? Did it belong to somebody who allegedly did this to his car? Do you think it shows the incompetence of the investigation? What do you think, William?
So I don't think it shows the incompetence of the investigation. Obviously, the defense is going to exploit any missteps that happen during the course of the investigation from beginning to end. So I think incompetence is a pretty strong word used in this particular context. I do think that we need to remember that when the case was first being investigated, when the arson was first being investigated, I don't think that the Los Angeles police had any idea what this was going to eventually turn into. So would it have been great if they checked the glove for DNA? Sure. Again, I think incompetence is a bit of a strong
word. Interesting. So we also have polls that we put up on YouTube. And hopefully I'm reading this right, because I don't think this is accurate. But anyway, does the destruction of fingerprint cards by an LAPD officer raise questions on evidence handling? Tyler, I don't think it came out that they never said that the LAPD had destroyed anything. The whole problem was it gave the inference that it might have been Sean Combs or his team that actually destroyed the fingerprint cards, which, by the way, there's no evidence of that. But just taking that question, well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, unless I didn't hear the testimony correctly, but 86% say yes, the destruction raises questions on evidence handling. 14% say no. Tyler, unless I'm wrong, what do you make of that?
Yeah, I didn't catch that either, that it was insinuated that the police department themselves destroyed the fingerprints. But, in a case like this, when the investigation is done with indifference or common sense, things like checking DNA aren't done, it's the defense's obligation to exploit those and show that this is now you fast forward years later of cases being brought against Mr. Combs, but they didn't do the little things. It shows some indifference. You have Kid Cudi, who was a rapper at the time. This is his property that's only damaged. We don't know what these officers could be thinking. They could think this is just another rich person in LA whose car was burnt. He can file an insurance claim and nobody was hurt. So let's make our report and move on rather than checking DNA evidence. So if I was on this defense, anytime you have something like that shows that the police department did not do the proper job at that time, but now they're offering testimony to this jury to put Mr. Combs away for life. Why they didn't do all that work back when they originally investigated this case, to draw the attention away from Mr. Combs and the heinous conduct and acts that you heard, to the prosecution and their agents in doing sloppy investigation and collecting evidence.
So I stand corrected. There is a piece of reporting that says Officer Jimenez testified that the print card that was kept with evidence from the arson case was destroyed by an LAPD officer in August 2012. So interesting there. Hey, Ashley, guess what? Breaking news. Cassie Ventura welcomes third baby with husband Alex Fine. So what? Very important that she testified week one, right?
Was it ever? And I know that there was a lot of, back and forth about the defense trying to draw it out to get her to come back to the witness stand over a weekend and into a Monday, and that the prosecutors were worried she might go into labor. So, and not only that, it would give an opportunity to the defense to spend, a whole weekend, Diddy in his cell, going over all of her testimony to pick it apart for more cross examination. But, good for her. I'm sure that this has been extraordinarily traumatic and stressful. I remember when I was 8, 9 months pregnant. I didn't look as good as she did, by the way. It was enough just dealing with that in your life, and she's got other kids at home as well. Then to add the arguably the most traumatic moment thus far in her life, going in and recounting all the horrors that she's lived through. Hopefully.
Okay, y'all, the jury is back. Let me get us to the right space. All right, the jury is back, and Deonte Nash will be back on the stand. And I think I will share with you all the Twitter thread that I will be following. And like all of these lives, I will bounce back and forth between this Twitter thread and the updates that are on CNN, because using both tends to give us the best context for what's happening. So that is exactly what I will be doing. And I don't think the jury is back in yet. I think right now it is just the judges and the attorneys. So hopefully they won't take too long working through whatever they have to work through. But it's 1:26 Eastern Standard Time. Court normally ends around 3:30. So what might as well say like a couple of hours left. This is the third witness on the stand. The prosecutor was trying to get through 4 witnesses today. The first witness was the LAPD officer who investigated the Kid Cudi break-in. The second person who took the stand was an LA arson investigator. It was with his testimony that the defense asked for a mistrial. It was all centered around a fingerprint card that has been destroyed. The fingerprint card that was associated with the evidence that was taken from Kid Cudi's car was destroyed in 2012 by an LA police officer. Why? We don't know. Nobody told us why. The defense attorney out of the defense team asked for a mistrial because they felt like the jury would probably likely think that Diddy pulled strings in order to get that information destroyed by the LAPD. But of course, the judge denied the request for a mistrial. So after Mr. Jimenez, I think was his name, the arson investigator, we now have Deonte Nash, who is on the stand. And he is a stylist, and he was a stylist for Cassie and Diddy. So before lunch, he gave testimony to things he witnessed. He gave testimony to the names that Diddy would call Cassie. He gave testimony to how a photo of all of Cassie's outfits had to be sent to Diddy, and he had to approve them. Deonte Nash also gave testimony to at some event where he had styled Cassie, her hair was down, and when Diddy got there, he said that Diddy literally lifted him up, and he was upset and complaining about Cassie's hair and said that Cassie's hair should be up. So he and Cassie rushed to a bathroom, got hairpins, and pinned her hair up. And then he said later that night, Diddy told him, "Oh, yeah, it did look better down." So more crazy ish from Diddy, based off of this testimony from Mr. Nash. So again, he is where the defense will pick up once the jury is back in. And yeah, I will say what maybe the fifth time today. I do not feel that the government at this point, and we still got what, we're week 3. This is supposed to last 8 weeks. I still don't. Well, I think the government though said they only need 2 more weeks for their side. I don't feel that the government, who's over the halfway mark for their part of calling witnesses, I don't think at this point that they've shown us that the things that Diddy was doing, which were criminal, were in furtherance of a criminal organization. So I'm still struggling with how they get to racketeering. Maybe I need to do a little bit more research on what they have to prove, because my understanding was that with racketeering, they have to show that these things that the person is doing, even these criminal things that the person is doing, is in furtherance of a criminal enterprise. And I just don't see that. Now, that being said, they definitely, in my opinion, have enough. Even if they don't prove that charge, even if the jury cannot come to a conclusion that he's guilty of that charge, they still have enough other things on him, like the kidnapping and some of the other charges, that Diddy's going to prison. He's going to prison. It's just a matter of for which charges and for how long. Okay, that's my opinion. Let's see if we go back to the Twitter feed. And see if I can make that a little bit bigger for you all to follow along. Just 1 second. All right. So I don't know if the jury is back in yet. Let me check and see if we have any other update. Okay. Okay, the jury is still not in yet. The judge has been back on the bench now for 14 minutes, back from lunch, but the jury is still not back in the courtroom yet. So, and I don't know. Let me see if we have any information of what they're talking about. Let's see. The prosecutor wants to show Mr. Nash a photo of this afternoon's witness, Mia, without the screen in the gallery showing the photograph. Okay, so Mia is an alias for someone who used to work for Diddy. And from what I understand in her testimony, she's going to talk about things she witnessed and also talk about things that were done to her. So she is supposed to be one of the 4 victims that are supposed to be in this trial. From what I understand, the 4 primary victims was Cassie, someone, I don't know, probably going by the alias of Jane, like the Jane Doe, but her name is Jane. Mia, who's also an alias, that's number 3. And Gina was supposed to also be a witness, but I'm sure you all have heard all the mystery around Gina. Excuse me. And will she show? Will she not? It appears that she is a resistant uh, witness, and I don't even know if they've been able to reach her to subpoena her. It makes it seem like she's away by choice on an island somewhere trying to wait this trial out, is what it seems like. And I don't know if that's because, I don't know if she's afraid, or I don't know if it's because she wants to support Diddy and maybe not put herself in a position where she has to testify. Because if you all don't know, Gina did a very damaging interview with Tasha K. She talked about a lot of the things she experienced with Diddy, everything from the beatings to him making her miscarry. So, and a lot of what she talked about with Tasha K is very similar to what we've heard Cassie and others describe as far as what Diddy does when he is committing domestic violence. So, but Gina right now, it's a big old question mark on Gina. A big question mark on Gina, whether or not she's going to participate in this trial or not. So we'll see how that goes. Right now, let me check and see if the jury is back in yet. And if they're not, we might go back to Law and Crime and listen a little bit more to them while we wait for the jury to come back. Okay, so the jury isn't back yet. The judge and the lawyers are still doing some housekeeping before they return. So let's hop over and look at Law and Crime right now, who's live right now, and we'll get back to the thread as far as what's going on in the courtroom as soon as the jury is back in the courtroom and as soon as Mr. Nash is back on the witness stand. So let me just share our screen here to go over to Law and Crime. Oh, let's see. I think here we go. All right.
It's only like a dozen. So is there something more to come? Because I'm popping the popcorn.
You're not the only one who said that. They said, I don't understand. They only found out a limited number there. What happened to 1,000 bottles is the prosecution not being truthful. But maybe, look, they'll call maybe LA investigators to talk more about this Homeland Security that, raided that property. Look, I think it's really interesting that you mentioned that, because going back to what I said with Gina, alleged victim number 3, again, 2019, I believe, as she sat down for an interview on YouTube where she said Combs stomped her, punched her. You want to talk consistency? Go to the 2016 tape of Cassandra Ventura. Is it not the exact same thing? Now, again, is it domestic violence? Is it sex trafficking? Is it racketeering? Separate question. Okay. William, question from
Jesse.
Yes.
It's also pattern, right?
Pattern.
Because part of RICO requires a pattern of behavior. And so, man, oh man, have I seen a whole bunch of different kinds of patterns laid out so far. We're only into 2 weeks here. So I think that's all really important. It may be a pattern of domestic abuse, but it speaks to patterns of behavior that just keep repeating and just keep getting corroborated.
And with the intent that he forces them into sexual episodes. And these sexual episodes are commercial sex acts. And there's certain elements to follow there. But yeah, 100%. The pattern, so important for racketeering. I'm glad you mentioned that. William, we got a question from Camilla Chanko. Hi from the UK to Jesse and the panel. Thank you for your daily shows and updates. Thank you. Question, do you think Diddy's security team may have struck a deal with prosecutors and might testify later in the trial? William.
So I would imagine when we talked about some of the other witnesses testifying, there were questions as to whether or not they had proffer agreements or if they had, received some sort of immunity in exchange for their testimony. I would imagine that Diddy's security team has some issues on their own regarding their own culpability here, especially if the testimony that we've heard so far is to be believed. So I'd be surprised if they didn't have some sort of immunity deal worked out. And I do think it would be important to hear from them. I think that they are crucial witnesses as far as the racketeering goes, as well as to corroborate some of these other statements that, for example, Vanessa made and that we heard about Kid Cudi and who was there and who was driving around with guns to confront people, who was driving around to confront Suge Knight with a gun, who was driving around to confront Kid Cudi with a gun. We know that Diddy wasn't doing these things by himself, and there was a team around him. And obviously that team includes the security personnel. So I would be surprised if we didn't hear from them. And if we do hear from them, I can almost guarantee that they've worked out a deal with the government. Otherwise, they have their own criminal exposure here.
Of course, or at least they have to be asked. Racketeering conspiracy? He can't agree with himself. There's got to be multiple players. And there's a whole idea in the indictment. Every superseding indictment has said the same thing, right? He's got his associates, the people around him who help facilitate these crimes and cover them up. Actually, William, one more question I want to throw to you. It's an interesting legal question. This is from Nicole RZV. If Diddy knows deep down that he ordered the Molotov cocktail incident, again, referring to the Kid Cudi bombing of his car, would he admit that to his lawyers? And if so, does the defense team still defend him knowing he committed the act? Good question.
That is a good question. So, I've been a criminal defense attorney for going on 30 years. And if I only represented people who were innocent, or if I only represented people who said they didn't do it, I'd be doing something else, because it just doesn't work that way. So if he admitted to certain facts to his lawyers, That's attorney-client privilege, and they can't reveal it. And chances are they would still continue to represent him. I assume that's the question. I mean, again, there aren't a lot of lawyers out there who will only represent individuals who didn't do it.
But you can't lie, right? You can't lie to the court.
But that's a different story entirely, and I don't think that's what the question was. If the question was,
it was my question. I threw it in.
Sure. If they know that Diddy was involved in it, if they know he was involved in the Molotov cocktail incident, they can't then put him on the stand knowing he's going to perjure himself. That's problematic for Diddy and the lawyers, certainly. So that's a slightly different question and changes the dynamic of it. So no, as a lawyer, I cannot put a client or even a witness on the stand knowing that they're going to give a falsehood or perjure themselves.
So we have an update from court. Again, officially back in session. The judge says, bring back in Mr. Nash, and then the jury all rise. Remember, Mr. Nash is the celebrity stylist who worked with Sean Combs and Cassie. Prosecutor asks, how many times in person have you witnessed Mr. Combs be violent? Nash replies, quite a few.
Okay, good. So we're back. So the judge says bring back in Mr. Nash and then the jury. Okay. Prosecutor, how many times, and this is a question that he's asking of Deonte Nash, who was the stylist for Cassie and also Diddy. Prosecutor, how many times in person have you witnessed Mr. Combs be violent? Quite a few. Prosecutor, this is a sealed exhibit. Without saying her name, do you recognize this person? We'll call Mia. Nash said, yes. Prosecutor, what were you and Mia helping Cassie pack for? The OVO Fest in Canada. Prosecutor, who came to the door? Puff. He said, bitch, didn't I tell you to answer your phone? Then he dragged her by the hair and hit her. Y'all, okay, let me keep going. Prosecutor, how hard was he hitting her? The defense objects. Okay, let me just go back. See, this is the thing, right? First of all, every time I hear all this, I do feel bad for Cassie. How do you not feel bad for somebody who's a victim of domestic violence? How do you not feel bad for that person? I don't care whatever thoughts you might have out there about why did she stay, which is, well, any of those thoughts, or she was there just trying to get her career to the, so I've heard some crazy things, and I've heard a lot, just like I'm sure most of us who are following this case, we've heard a lot, very specific to Cassie, but I don't know how anybody can hear about the incidents of her being beaten by this man where you do not feel sorry for her. She didn't ask for that. She did not ask for that. I don't care if for some reason you don't like Cassie. If for some reason you think as it relates to the freak offs, she was no victim there. And if your thought is that for her it was consensual and she was even an organizer of some, so she has culpability, in fact, maybe for those crimes, especially with the prostitution, maybe she should be charged. Maybe that's your thought. I've heard that. But when it comes down to him beating her up, I just feel like everybody should be on the same page with that part. Okay. When it comes down to him beating her up, there is nothing to debate there, in my opinion. Okay. So let's go back. It's just hard to keep hearing it, but as we hear from more and more witnesses talk about the violence that they witnessed, talk about the domestic violence that they've seen, again, it just really, really, really goes back to the domestic violence box has been checked. How will you tie all of these incidents you're sharing with us back to whatever is needed to show that this is connected to sex trafficking and that this is connected to a criminal enterprise? Back to the testimony. Okay. I'll go a little bit back from where we left off. The prosecutor is asking Deonte who came to the door. This is when they were in OVO, and Deonte and Mia, who we're going to hear from later this afternoon, were getting Cassie ready for the OVO Fest in Canada. Prosecutor said, who came to the door? Deonte said, Puff. He said, bitch, didn't I tell you to answer your phone? Then he dragged her by the hair and hit her. Prosecutor, how hard was he hitting her? Defense attorney objected. The judge overruled. Deonte said, very hard. We ran to the bedroom, but Puff pushed it open. He continued to attack Cassie with his fist. Wow. Prosecutor, what did you do to try to help Cassie? I jumped on Puff's back. He threw me off. Mia too. Man, just fucking like a wild animal. Wow. Okay. Deonte, Cassie's head hit the bed frame. She was bleeding, but Puff continued hitting her. Prosecutor, where was Mia? Getting towels. Prosecutor, what did Mr. Combs say to you, Mia, and Cassie? He said, look what y'all made me do. Man, is that not some classic, Lord, I can't give, if that is not some classic thing, a classic thing for an abuser to say. They normally say that to the person they're beating up. Like, look what you made me do. Again, Deonte Nash, the ex-stylist for Cassie, and Diddy said Cassie's head hit the bed frame. She was bleeding, but Puff continued hitting her. Where was Mia? Deonte said, getting towels. Prosecutor, what did Mr. Combs say to you, Mia, and Cassie? He said, look what y'all made me do. He said she'd go to a plastic surgeon. Prosecutor, with who? Deonte, D-Rock. He was Puff's security. Prosecutor, after that, when did you see her? The next day, FaceTime or something like that. She had a gash in her eyebrow. Prosecutor, were you once cooking with Cassie when Mr. Combs got violent? Deonte said yes. Puff came. Okay, let's see if we have anything more. Prosecutor said, what did Mr. Combs say? Deonte Nash said, he said, y'all better get out of my house. He was grabbing her by the hair. He pushed her out the door and then began to do the same to me, but I don't have hair. He popped me. He told me to go downstairs and wait. Man, it was nothing for Diddy to beat up on Cassie. It was nothing for Diddy to put his hands on his employees. And I'm sorry, y'all know it is no way in this world that Diddy did not also put his hands on Kim Porter. He's a maniac. There will be nobody who is exempt from this treatment. Nobody. Crazy. Wow. And this is a picture that was submitted in the evidence earlier. I think that is of that gash. Man, this is just it's just horrible. It's just horrible. It's just horrible. The more, and that's why, when he does go to prison, because he's going to prison. Okay. Um, it's karma. Some of it is just, yeah, you did some effed up stuff, like, because again, I don't think they've proven racketeering yet. I don't see the links to criminal enterprise, but he's done a lot of criminal shit. And there's also charges for some of it, not the domestic violence, but some of the other stuff. So he's going to prison, in my opinion. But when I hear the testimony that we're hearing, like right now, from Deonte Nash, that testimony makes me totally okay with him going to jail for whatever time he gets. This is a horrible person who has spent so much of his time since he's been famous, rich, and powerful, taking advantage of people and abusing people, from women to employees. And yeah, it is a big old question mark on what did he have to do with Tupac and Biggie. The rumor is he put a hit out on Tupac. Think what he put up like $1 million. That's the rumor. Okay. Is that hard to believe? It's not hard to me to believe. And with him also running around with guns and trying to find Suge, and also, threatening to kill Kid Cudi and threatening to kill, Capricorn Clark and Cassie if they didn't do things he wanted them to do. It almost makes me feel like, are they investigating to see who this man might have killed? I mean, the rumor mill is what it is. There's been rumors forever that he definitely has something to do with setting Tupac up. There's definitely been a rumor out there about him potentially also having something to do with what happened to Biggie. There's rumors out there about him allegedly having something to do with Kim Porter's death. And then I think there's some other things like I think what's the guy they brought up the other day? What's his name? Chris Lighty, who supposedly unalived themselves, but I think some people thought that was suspicious. And they thought Diddy didn't really like him either because he had started dating Kim Porter. So, I mean, I don't know if at some point in time, if there's going to be some type of investigation to, out of all of these threats of like murking people, and I'm saying it that way because I think YouTube requires it. I wonder if there's ever going to be any investigation into any of like the people I just named. Or will the government feel like once we get them in prison, we don't really care as long as we got them? Now, look, while we're waiting for the testimony to update, I believe that when Diddy goes to prison, I believe that he is ultimately going to be pardoned by Donald Trump. And I think that that is going to be music to the ears of men who are actually supporting Diddy. And really, really, really music to the ears of some black men who are supporting Diddy. And it will be a chess move by this MAGA Republican Party to convince more black men to vote that way. Because if Donald Trump pardons Diddy, they're going to use it and how they're going to try to set it up. So for that small group, because I still feel it's a small group of black men who are rooting for Diddy, and if Trump ends up pardoning him, they will be like, yeah, Trump is our end. Just the ignorance of it all. Oh, I do think that will buy a lot more support from some black men of the Republican Party. I'm just saying. We're waiting for the testimony to update from inside the courtroom. But I just, this testimony is devastating. Okay, so let's go back because I think we do have a few updates now. All right, so we left off with the prosecutor saying, what did Mr. Combs say? He said, Deonte said, y'all better get out of my house. He was grabbing her by the hair, He pushed her out the door, then began to do the same to me, but I didn't have hair. He popped me. He told me to go downstairs and wait. They came down and Puff was berating us as we drove off. We got a phone call. The defense objects. The judge said, new question. Prosecutor, call from who? Deonte said, Puff. He told us to stop and he came to the window. He said he put her sex tapes on the internet. Mm. Deonte said, Puff said he'd send her sex tapes to her parents' jobs and get them fired, that her brother was a bitch and that only he protected her. Prosecutor, what did you tell her? That Puff is on the sex tapes too. She said he is not. He was taping her with other men. Prosecutor, what did she say about wanting or not wanting to have sex with other men? The defense objects, the judge overrules. Deonte says that she didn't want to. I drove her to Sunset Boulevard to get a taxi. Prosecutor, why? Deonte said Uber wasn't really a thing yet. Wow. Wow. So I guess Nash's testimony that she didn't want to participate in the freak off, I think that could be helpful to the prosecution because they do have to show coercion in order to support the sex trafficking charge. So I guess that's helpful there. He talked about, this is a picture too of that gash on Cassie's head because Nash talked about the night when Diddy came in and told her, bitch, didn't I tell you to answer your phone, and threw her and she hit her head on the bed frame. And he said, even though she was bleeding, Diddy still kept hitting her. And he said he jumped on Diddy's back. And this is the stylist for Cassie. He said he jumped on Diddy's back and he threw him off. And then Mia tried to get involved. Mia, we will hear from later this afternoon as well. And he got pushed her. So he was just like a wild animal that night. And then turned to them, all three of them, Cassie, Deonte, who's on the stand right now, and Mia, who we'll hear from later this afternoon. He did this and then looked at them and said, look at what y'all made me do. Classic abuser, right? Classic abuser. Okay, let's see if we have an update from in the court at this point. Yep, we do. So let me go back up just a little bit. Okay. Let's see. We left off with Nash saying that she didn't want to, as far as participate in the freak off. He said, I drove her to Sunset Boulevard to go get a taxi. The prosecutor said, why? And Nash said, Uber wasn't really a thing yet. Nash, who is Deonte Nash, the stylist. So you might hear me flip back and forth between Deonte and Nash. Deonte said, Puff came to my house looking for her. He looked in my oven. I'm not sure why. Puff took my phone and Cassie called from a hotel. Puff said, let's go there. Bad boy staff stayed there. Prosecutor, what did Mr. Combs say? Deonte, he said, go get her. Y'all. Now, if you are forcing your employees that you've already, because at this point, Deonte has already testified, he didn't put his hands on him too. He done popped him. Okay. He didn't put his hands on Capricorn Clark. Supposedly he's put his hands on some other people whose names are going to come up. And now are you forcing? Well, let me not get ahead of the testimony. Let's wait to see what the testimony has to say. Cause I'm like, if I just saw you beat up your girlfriend, put a gash on her head, drag her by her hair, and then you tell me to go get her, to bring her back to you. Okay. So we have another update. Prosecutor again said, what did Mr. Combs say? Deonte said, he said, go get her. Deonte went on to say, I went to Cassie's hotel room with D-Rock, these are security people, and Tony. She jumped up. She was frightened. She said she would jump off the balcony. My. Prosecutor said, how high was it? Deonte said, it wasn't the first floor. Downstairs, I saw 4 or 5 of Puff's security waiting. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Let me see while we're waiting for the next update on this thread. Let me see how CNN might be summing up this. Okay, so while we're waiting for the X thread to update from inside the courtroom, I'll read to you all what CNN just noted on their live updates. Stylist Deonte Nash testified that he watched Diddy attack Cassandra Ventura in a rage, quote unquote, sometime in 2013 or 2014 when he was helping Ventura pack for a trip. Deontay said he answered the door when Combs arrived because Ventura was asleep on the couch. Combs came in yelling at Ventura about how she allegedly didn't answer her phone. Nash said he watched Combs grab her by her hair and pull her off the couch and start hitting her. Nash said he ran into Ventura's bedroom with Ventura and one of Combs's assistants. The assistant has been identified in this trial as Mia. Combs pushed the door open as they tried to lock him out, Nash said. Combs continued to attack Ventura, hitting and kicking her until she hit her head on the bed frame. Nash testified. Nash and Mia both jumped on Combs's back, but he threw them off, Nash said. Combs finally stopped when he noticed the blood. When he noticed the blood, he just panicked, Nash said. Nash said Combs said to them, "Look what y'all made me do." Nash said that he dialed 911, but someone told him to hang up before the call connected. He testified he can't remember who told him to hang up. Combs told them that Ventura would go to a plastic surgeon with his security guard. Nash said when Nash saw Ventura on a video call the next day, she had a gash on her forehead near her eyebrow and stitches, Nash said. Wow. Wow. I'm starting to think his criminal enterprise was abduction. I mean, because especially that part on the X thread where it said Cassie threatened to jump off the balcony, and when you look downstairs, he had like what, several of his security guards were downstairs. Look what y'all made me do. Classic from an abuser. All right, let's see if we have another update at this point. Okay. All right, so again, we'll go back and we do have a couple of updates. So let's go back a little bit where we left off. Deontay said, I went to Cassie's hotel room with D-Rock and Tony. She jumped up. She was frightened. She said she would jump off the balcony. How high was it? It wasn't the first floor. Downstairs, I saw 4 or 5 of Puff's security waiting. Puff told me, you played me. I drove off, but Puff security followed me. I turned off my lights and drove really fast. I went to the Universal Sheraton. Prosecutor, did you go home the next day? Deontay said, yes. I found my backpack was stolen. It had $1,000 in it. Prosecutor, why did you keep $1,000 cash? Deontay said, so when Puff was mad, I could check into a hotel without giving my name. Prosecutor, what happened in 2015? I saw Puff slap Cassie in the face. He said, get this bitch out of here. Prosecutor, what did you do? I got her out. Y'all, this is just so bad. This dude, look. Look. He got to go, y'all. He got to go. He got to go. The only thing, because I know he's going to prison. Like I said, I just don't know how long and for which charges he'll be found guilty of. And I know if they're able to prove a lot of these charges, including the racketeering, he could end up being in there for life. And you all have heard me say on today's live and others, I'm still waiting for the government to show enough evidence to show that these crimes that he was committing was connected to the furtherance of a criminal organization. In spite of that, I might be feeling like how some people on the jury is feeling right now. When I'm looking at this testimony that's coming from Deonte today, I'm like, he doesn't have to see the light of day again, whether they're able to prove it or not, because this is his fucking karma. This is his just due. And it may not be enough justice for the things that he's done. And this right now is just talking about what we're seeing here with the domestic violence. The putting your hands on your employees, kidnapping your employees. These are the things we know about. Somebody this unhinged, somebody with this much ego, this much power, this person who takes who really obviously gets off on abusing his power. You can't tell me that this man has not done a lot of other stuff that we may not know about. It's just no way I would believe that. So let's see if we have another update from inside the court. But this testimony is Deonte, I think, is a great witness. I think he's a great witness. So let's see if we have an update. And I think we do. Okay, we do. So let's go back up a little bit where we left off. Deonte Nash said, I saw Puff slap Cassie in the face. My apologies, y'all. Okay, I'm sorry. My apologies there. All right, so I don't know what is happening with my tech, but I am hoping that you all can hear me. So if you're on this live, if you could just give me a thumbs up to let me know you can hear me, that would be great. Because I don't know what's happening with my tech right now. Let me just 1 second. Let me turn off Bluetooth. So hopefully what just happened won't happen again. All right, we're back. Okay, good. All right, so the prosecutor asked, Nash said, Puff told me you played me. I drove off, but Puff's security followed me. I turned off my lights and drove really fast. I went to the Universal Sheridan. Prosecutor, did you go home the next day? Deonte Nash said, yes. I found my backpack was stolen. It had $1,000 in it. Prosecutor, why did you keep $1,000 cash? Deonte said, so when Puff was mad, I could check it to a hotel without giving my name. Prosecutor, what happened in 2015? Nash, I saw Puff slap Cassie in the face and he said, get this bitch out of here. Prosecutor, what did you do? I got her out. Prosecutor, the Perfect Match premiere. What did you see? Cassie had a black eye. When was Mr. Combs violent with you at a music video? Deonte said, yes, I was outside smoking a cigarette. Puff came and threw me on the car and started choking me out. Man, what? Why are you choking out this man? Oh, man. Okay, so here's the further Nash continued his statement. All right, so let's just go back up because I just want to run this together so it all makes sense. Okay, so prosecutor says the Perfect Match premiere. What did you see? Cassie had a black eye. Dante replied. Prosecutor, when was Mr. Combs violent with you at a music video? When was Mr. Combs violent with you at a music video? Deonte said, yes. I was outside smoking a cigarette. Puff came and threw me on the car and started choking me out. Puff said, y'all keep going out. Prosecutor, did you report anything to the police? Deonte said, no. I was afraid of retaliation from Puff. Prosecutor, did you get anyone on staff? Oh, here we go again. Deonte said Christina Coram, KK. Okay, so this is now multiple instances where people who were subjected to things with Diddy went to KK, reported it to KK, who was the chief of staff. Prosecutor, what did she say? Nash said that she would talk to him. Yeah, you better believe KK has a sweet deal with the prosecution, because she really should be sitting at this table with Diddy. She is no different, in my opinion, than that woman who was working with Epstein. And she's in prison right now. So Diddy's chief of staff, KK, was no different than that woman. No different. Okay. So let's see if we have another update. Not yet. While we're waiting for that, I'll check the CNN side and see what they're saying. Wow. It's so much. Okay, so let me just read to you all what CNN has updated on their side. Deonte Nash recounted a time in 2013 or 2014 when he was at Ventura's apartment and Diddy came over saying he wanted to talk to Ventura. He said Combs and Ventura went into the bedroom, and when they came out, Combs grabbed her by her hair and the back of her shirt and started pushing her out while telling her to get out of his house. Nash testified that he understood Combs was referring to Ventura's apartment. Nash testified that Combs pushed Ventura halfway out of the door and then began doing the same to him. He was more so popping me in the back of the head because I don't have hair and grabbing me by my shirt, Nash said. Nash said he went downstairs to get in his car and Ventura and Combs came down later. Puff began to berate us both and he finally let us go, Nash said, referring to Combs. Nash said he and Ventura began driving away when they received a call from Combs telling them to pull over. Combs then came up to the window and started talking to Ventura. Nash testified that Combs told her he would put sexually explicit videos of her on the internet. Combs said he was going to release them on a schedule and start by sending them to her parents' jobs. Nash said Combs also told Cassie he was the only one that protected her. Cassie was in tears as they drove away, Nash said. Nash testified that he told Ventura that if Combs wanted to release the tape, she should let him, since he'd be on the tapes too. She said that he wasn't on the videos, that it was him taping her with other guys. Nash testified that Ventura said she didn't want to have sex with the other men, but she did it because Puff wanted her to. Okay, now see, that's the part right there where it's not going to be hard for people to say, well, she knew if she didn't, he would beat her up, because look at her, he was beating her up, right? So that gray area where people are like, yeah, but she said she did it because he wanted her to, but not that he forced her to do it. That's going to be a hard thing to sell, and that's probably why the prosecution has been laying on so many different witnesses with DV stories to show that this lady was not able to say no, because there would be a very real consequence. So yeah, I'll give them that. Okay, Celebrity Stylist testifies that Combs searched his home for Ventura. Deonte Nash's boss, stylist Derek Roche, called him to say he had given Nash's address to Combs. What? Who was on his way there. Nash then dropped Cassie off on Sunset Boulevard so she could catch a cab. When Roche, Combs, and his security guard arrived at Nash's house, Combs searched the house asking where Ventura was. He looked in the oven. I don't know why he looked in the oven, Nash said. Combs then took Nash's phone, which showed Ventura was calling him from a nearby hotel. Combs then demanded that Nash drive to the hotel while he followed so Nash could get Ventura to come out of the hotel. Nash knew the staff at the hotel, so Combs told him to sweet talk his way up to Cassie's room. Combs' security guard and chief of staff, Tony Fletcher, went with Nash up to her room. Ventura was frightened when they got there, Nash said. When they told her to go downstairs to Combs waiting outside, Cassie said she was going to go over the balcony as she walked toward it, Nash testified. Nash testified that when he left the hotel, he noticed a car was following him and he thought it was Combs' security. He said he turned off his lights and sped away until he lost them, and then went to a different hotel to spend the night. Quote, I didn't think my home was safe to go to that night, he said. Nash said when he returned to his home the next morning, his backpack containing his ID, $1,000 cash, and his iPad had been stolen. Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Let's see what else we have. Okay, so back to the text thread. So we left off with the prosecution asking Deonte Nash if he went to anybody on staff about what Diddy had done. He said he went to KK, who was Diddy's chief of staff. Prosecutor asked, what did she say? He said that she said she would talk to him. Prosecutor, did anything change? Nash said no. Prosecutor, how often did you help Cassie hide? Deonte said often. Prosecutor, what did Mr. Combs do? Nash, he would blow our phones up. KK would too. She would say Puff was calm. Cassie would go back. Prosecutor, did Cassie tell you she was going to a hotel with Mr. Combs? Yes, weekly. She would pack sex toys. Prosecutor, did she say she wanted to go? The defense objects, the judge overrules. Nash says she didn't want to go. Prosecutor, her 29th birthday. Tell me. Nash said, Puff asked me, should he surprise her on her birthday? Prosecutor, what did you say? Nash said, girl, I was not about to tell him not to surprise her. Prosecutor, did she use the word freak off with you? Nash, not like freak off, more like freak off. Prosecutor, like a verb, yes. This Deonte Nash is a character and a good witness. So let's see if we have anything else. Yeah, this guy is yeah. I would love to see him do some interviews. Okay, let's see what we have on the CNN side. Deonte Nash also testified that Sean Diddy Combs was violent with him a few times. Nash recalled an occasion around 2013 during a music video short for Ventura when Combs attacked him while he was outside smoking a cigarette. Combs grabbed Nash and threw him on a parked car, saying to Nash, I thought I told y'all about going out. Y'all wilding. Nash testified that Combs was referring to the occasion he testified about earlier when Combs told Nash he couldn't go out because Ventura would want to go with him. Deonte Nash testified he saw Diddy slap Ventura across the face. One time in 2015, Nash said they were with a few other people in a parking lot outside a music studio when he heard a commotion. Nash said he looked over and saw Combs slap Ventura across the face and say, get this bitch out of here. Nash said he took Ventura away and she was in tears. The stylist also testified that he FaceTimed with Ventura while she was getting ready for the Perfect Match premiere in 2016. Now, this was around the time of the elevator video. Nash said he noticed she had a black eye. Nash said he saw her in person at a premiere event and, quote, could see the black eye under the makeup. He said he also noticed Combs grabbing at her side during the event. Nash also testified he observed bruises on Ventura's legs, arms, and neck quite often. Okay. So the only other thing that CNN has at this point is just a legal expert talking about the stylist testimony speaks to the elements of control. So let me go back to the Twitter or the X thread and let's see if we have an update from where we left off. Okay, we do. So we left off with the prosecutor asking about whether or not Diddy came to Deonte Nash and said, should he throw Cassie a surprise birthday party? The prosecutor said, what did you say? Deonte said, girl, I was not about to tell him not to surprise her. Prosecutor, did she use the word freak off with you? Nash replied, not like freak off, more like freak off. And the prosecutor said, like a verb, and he said yes. Prosecutor, where did you go after the blind dragon? Nash said 875 Comstock, like 17A. Puff said, y'all gonna get some D tonight. What did Miss Ventura say? That she didn't want to go, but he made her. They left the house. She was super high. Mm, 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 mm. Y'all gonna get some D tonight. Okay. New Year's Eve, the prosecutor asks. New Year's Eve 2017, where were you? Deonte Nash said Vegas with Cassie and the staff all on the same floor of the hotel. Puff's room was at the end of the hall. Prosecutor, what did Mr. Combs tell you? Deonte said that Cassie had been asleep for 24 hours. I had to wake her up. Yeah, she was high out of her mind for real. Okay, so while we're waiting, let's see what other update we have for CNN. Deonte Nash said he would help Cassie Ventura hide from Combs often at hotels. Combs would then blow everyone's phone up, Nash said, describing how Combs' chief of staff, KK, would also call them saying Combs had calmed down and they should come back to the house. Nash testified that he talked to KK or Coram about the violence against Ventura. Coram said, she'd speak to Combs about it, Nash said, but the violence continued. Nash testified that he never reported any of the violence he witnessed out of fear that Combs would retaliate. Deonte Nash testified that Cassie would go to a hotel with Sean Diddy Combs about weekly. He said he often saw her packing a black duffel bag with sex toys for those days. Nash testified that Cassie told him she didn't want to go, but she did because, quote, because he wanted her to. Nash recounted the night they celebrated Cassie's 29th birthday. Nash testified that Combs and Ventura argued at dinner, and Combs told her he did everything for her, but she couldn't do this one thing. Nash said Ventura told him that Combs was mad, quote, because I don't want to go to the hotel and freak off with him. And that was the 29th birthday. Wow. All right, let's see if we have any more testimony here. All right, so we left off on the X thread with Deonte Nash saying that Combs had come to him and told him that Cassie had been asleep for 24 hours and that he wanted Deonte to wake her up. Nash said, I had to wake her up. Prosecutor, did she wake up? Nash said, she woke up for me. What did Mr. Combs say? Deonte Nash said that he spent all this money, so she had to. There was something low budget producer and laughs. Okay, we will have to see how CNN explains that because I'm sure they'll add more context. Yeah. Oh boy. I'm not, yeah, because I don't know. I'm just thrown now. Just, you think you don't really need to hear it anymore. Well, it's definitely not a need. Really don't need to hear anymore about these domestic violence episodes. But I tell you, the way this Nash guy, Deonte Nash, is describing how these beatings went down with Cassie, and also even with him, it is disturbing. It is very disturbing. It's almost 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. Court normally ends around 3:30. I they're still trying to get Mia on the stand today, and that is an alias. Mia is an alias of someone who used to work for Diddy, who is supposed to come on the stand after Deontay Nash is off the stand. So we'll see how that goes. So they have about an hour left for today. And the prosecution was hoping to get through all four witnesses today. So we'll see how that lands. Uh, so let's go back to the testimony here. All right. So Deontay Nash said, I had to wake her up. Prosecutor, did she wake up? He said, she woke up for me. What did Mr. Combs say? That he spent all this money, so she had to. Then there was a something low budget producer. And we'll see what the CNN feed says again to get a better explanation of that. Prosecutor, how many of your meetings with prosecutors did you end early? How many of your meetings with prosecutors did you end early? Deontay Nash said, probably all of them. Prosecutor, did you stay in touch with Mr. Combs? Deontay Nash said, yes. Prosecutor, what was your tone? Deontay Nash said, loving. Prosecutor said, why? Deontay Nash said, I don't hate him. It's not in me. Prosecutor, no further questions. See, this is a theme. This is a pattern now. We've seen it with Capricorn Clark. We're now seeing it with Deontay Nash. We also saw it with, oh, I can't remember his first name, but Mr. Kaplan. All of these people who were assistants and worked for Diddy, who are still staying connected to Diddy, even now, right? Still stays in touch with him. He says, I don't hate him. I don't have it in me. Do you not have it in you? Or is it a matter of this is still the prize pig? And these people want to stay connected to him because they are maybe hoping that by doing so, they may be granted an opportunity, a next gig with somebody. Don't want to get on his bad side. Don't want to be blackballed like how Capricorn Clark was for years. Wanting to have some proximity to fame and proximity to the people that the famous person has proximity to. So it's just interesting to see these witnesses get on the stand. In the case of Deontay Nash, not only did you witness and was very straightforward about how he talked to Cassie and the things he did when he was beating her, he also put his hands on him. But yet he still stays in contact with them. His tone when he talks to him, even now, is loving, his word. And when the prosecutor asks why, he says, I don't hate him. It's not in me. Well, you don't have to hate him. But to still stay in touch with him and your tone with him is loving. Strange, strange times we are in. Okay. Strange times. All right. So the prosecutor said no further questions. So the defense will now get their chance to cross uh, Deonte Nash, and they are taking a short break. Yeah, yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. So while we're waiting for them to return from break, we'll take a quick look over at an article from an expert at CNN. And let me share my screen so you all can see it as well. Uh, okay. All right. So this is from a legal expert. Again, we are on break right now in the courtroom. So let's check out this article while we're waiting. Stylist Deontay Nash's testimony so far has detailed the ways Diddy controlled Cassie's life, which the prosecution is using to prove the underlying racketeering conspiracy charge, CNN legal analyst and defense attorney Misty Maris said. Nash testified to elements of control he witnessed. Quote, he testified that Cassie's entire persona, her wardrobe, her hair, that was all controlled by Combs. But more so, he had actually heard Combs say, I'm going to beat you. That he had heard Combs say, I'm not going to release your music. That he had heard Combs say that he was actually going to get her parents fired. So all of these things are threats that speak not only to the underlying RICO charge, which, by the way, looking back to the indictment, part of the prosecution's narrative is that he coerces women into romantic relationships under the guise of dating, but is really for the purposes of engaging in sex trafficking. Mary said Nash's testimony also speaks to that aspect of force, fraud, or coercion that prosecutors need to establish for sex trafficking. Maris noted that there is this common theme now that quote there is always threats looming over. Ventura, based on accounts from witnesses and because Nash was forced to take the stand because he was subpoenaed, he doesn't seem to have the reason to lie. Okay. Okay. So that is interesting what this legal expert is explaining. And she is explaining how this line of questioning to show the control that Diddy had, to show the coercion and the aspect of force, all of that is contributing, according to this legal expert, the RICO charge, right? So interesting. And if those are building blocks to support what's needed to find somebody guilty of a RICO, Diddy is for sure toast. Okay, so let's see. There's another update from CNN. Let's see what that one is. Okay, yeah, we know that Cassie had her baby, so congrats to her. Singer Cassie Ventura, who recently testified as a central witness in the federal criminal trial of her ex-boyfriend, Diddy, has given birth to her third child. Multiple outlets have reported. Ventura and her husband, Alex Fine, welcome a son. They are also the parents of two young daughters, Frankie and Sunny. CNN has reached out to representatives for the couple for comment. So that's cool. That's cool. Very happy for Cassie, her husband, and her family that now they have two girls and a boy. That is so great. Another update from CNN on Deontay Nash's testimony said he stopped working for Diddy in 2018, but they've kept in touch, occasionally talking on the phone or over text messages. He said he'd act loving towards Combs when they spoke, despite everything he witnessed and personally endured. He noted that he has not pursued legal action or made a money demand against Combs. Nash said he is still close to Ventura and they speak pretty often. When asked how he feels about Combs now, Nash said, I don't hate him. I mean, I don't. It's just not in me. Hmm, okay. Prosecution completes direct examination. Okay, so yeah. So now we're waiting for the defense attorney to cross examine Deonte Nash. This is going to be interesting because Deonte Nash is definitely a character. Deonte Nash appears not to have any problem calling a thing a thing. So it's going to be interesting to see when he's crossed by the defense where this goes. So unless the defense might have some other information from his from Deonte's loving interactions with Diddy that might trip up some of what Deonte said earlier, but I don't know. I don't know because if Mia is taking a stand today, I'm assuming that Mia is probably going to corroborate some of the things that Deonte even said, especially since they were together for the incident where Diddy pushed Cassie down and she hit her head into the bed frame. So there's that. So I don't know. We'll see how this cross goes. My instinct tells me that it's going to end up being much ado about nothing, but we'll have to wait and see. So let's see if we have any update on the X side of our resources while we're waiting. And they just went on break like 9 minutes ago. So yeah, so they may be gone for a few more minutes. I think they've done really good with time today because we are on our third witness. They were supposed to get through 4 witnesses today. I don't know if that's going to happen because it is what? It is 2:36 Eastern Standard Time. And they have been wrapping up court a little bit after 3, sometimes maybe the latest 3:30. So even if Mia takes the stand today, I definitely see her carrying over into tomorrow. Yeah, for sure. But yeah, this is I don't know. I in some ways I wish they could expedite this trial because it just feels like we're going to be subjected to weeks and weeks more of just these stories that are so graphic and so horrible and really hard to hear. Really hard to hear. And I'm assuming that Cassie, especially just giving birth to her son, is not tapping in to any of this. That is my assumption. I hope for her sake she isn't. I hope for her sake she isn't like, you know, listening to all the media coverage of the testimony and what did people say and all of that. I'm just hoping for her sake that she isn't. Unless her doing that is something that she finds helpful for some reason. But I just like the idea of you're away from all of this now. You're married. You just had your first son. Enjoy that with your family and forget all of this debauchery over here um, that's going on in this trial. So I hope that's the case for her. Let me switch you all back over to the Twitter feed and then we can see where we go from there. They should be back any minute now because, again, I can't imagine they're going to take an extended break, especially when it's almost time for court to be over. So let's see. All right. Let's see if we have any update at the moment. Okay, we're still waiting. Crazy. All right, so while we're still waiting, we could look at some of the comments here. Al B. Sure confirms that he was subpoenaed. I'll be sure has stated that he is willing to testify if necessary, as he has been subpoenaed. Interesting. Interesting. And I wonder if I'll be sure testifies. Like, I wonder what is the current status of his relationship with his son Quincy. Because, Quincy is in court, uh, giving the appearance of family support for Diddy, who he calls Pops. And, he could be there because who knows how any of these children of Diddy are feeling about what's happening, right? Are they showing up for court because they have to show family support of their father? Are they showing up for court because, and somehow in their mind, they don't believe he's guilty of what he's being of what he's being accused of? Um, why are they showing up? We'll never know that, right? So, but it's just interesting to see all of them in court. And when you think about Quincy, who is biologically Al B. Sure's son, but was raised by Diddy and Kim, it makes you wonder what is the status of Quincy's relationship with Al B. Sure. Because I think at one point in time, they were trying to, I guess, rekindle or establish a better relationship. And I'm just curious as to what is that relationship like now, because when Kim Porter died all of a sudden, I'll be sure was out there immediately saying foul play. He later took down like what he had posted on social media, but he was immediately saying it was foul play and pointing the finger at Diddy. And so now Al B. Sure is supposed to have a book coming out in the fall called Do You Believe Me Now? Do You Believe Me Now? According to Al B. Sure, he has implied that when he almost lost his life, went into a coma, I think at some point some of his organs were like starting to shut down. He is implying that someone, take a wild guess who, that someone did something to him. So if he gets up there and he testifies, and I wonder if it's actually true that he's been subpoenaed, but if he does get up there and he testifies, I am wondering, what is the line of questioning? Will it be about what it would almost have to be what he witnessed, because he cannot say Kim told me this or my son told me that, because that would be objected to. So I just wonder what his testimony would be about. So it'll be interesting to see if he actually gets on the stand. This is crazy. Call of Diddy. This is crazy. Crazy. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Talking about a fall from grace. Talking about a fall from grace. I think this is a picture of Cassie and Deonte, who's on the stand. Well, yeah, Deonte, who's on the stand right now. So yeah, that's Cassie and Deonte Nash, who's on the stand right now. Somebody said, I don't think they're going to get Mia by the end of court today. Yeah. If Mia takes a stand, she'll definitely carry over till tomorrow. I'm surprised they took another break so soon, quite frankly. Let's see. CNN has an update. Let's see what they're talking about there. Oh, they said court may go later today. Prosecutor asked judge if they could stay late today to finish up Deonte Nash's testimony instead of reconvening tomorrow. Court has been adjourning around 3 p.m. Nash has a flight back to Los Angeles scheduled, and prosecutors don't want to rebook that unless they have to. Defense attorney Xavier Donaldson said that was fine with the defense. The judge said it would be fine with the jury as he had forewarned them they might go until 4 p.m. on some days. Okay, so they're going to go a little bit longer today in order to wrap up Deonte Nash. So that does mean that we will not see Mia take the stand until tomorrow. Okay, that's good to know. So let's bring Mr. Nash back to the stand so that the defense can cross him and see where we go. I'm sure it's going to be entertaining. Okay. So the update we see here is still in alignment with what I just read from CNN. Someone said, no one less trustworthy on the stand than a flamboyant gay man. If anyone is going to lie and embellish, okay, let's not do that. All right. What is that? An ad? We've already looked at some of those things. What's the poll? Oh, that's an ad too. Yeah. So we're just waiting. We are waiting for the testimony to be updated. Okay. All right. We do have an update. And let's see where we are. Okay. So now the defense is questioning Deonte Nash. And here we go. How are you? Deonte Nash says, blessed. The defense attorney, when he met with the government, you had an attorney present. So it must have been when you met with the government, did you have an attorney present? Deonte Nash said, yes. The defense, the subpoena didn't mean you had to go to their office. Right. Okay. Where are we going, defense team? And while we're waiting for that to be updated, let me quickly see what is being said. Okay, nothing on the CNN side other than talking about Deonte Nash is now being crossed by the defense attorney. So we can just go back up and read that part of the testimony, and hopefully we will then by then have an update. All right. So the prosecutor said, I'm sorry, the defense attorney said, how are you? Deonte Nash said, blessed. When you met with the government, you had an attorney present? Deonte said, yes. The subpoena didn't mean you had to go to their office. Deonte said, right. And we're waiting. We're waiting. So Deonte Nash was off the chain with the prosecution and his responses. So it is going to be very interesting, very, very interesting to see what happens on this cross by Diddy's attorneys. So I hope it moves as quickly with the updates we were getting when the prosecution was asking questions. All right, so here we go. Again, the defense attorney said the subpoena didn't mean you had to go to their office. Deonte said, right. Defense attorney, you hired a civil lawyer, Mr. Dunn, to represent you, considering litigation against Mr. Combs. Deonte Nash said, no. Does this document show that? Deonte Nash said, it's their assumption, but no, I have counsel to protect me. I don't do federal court. Y'all, Deonte still cutting up. Deonte was cutting up earlier when he was testifying, and he's still cutting up. But I love the authenticity of it. Okay, because they were trying to say that he did not have any kind of civil action out against Diddy at all, and I guess the defense is saying, but you hired a civil lawyer though, right? Because it is strange now. He has testified not only the things he witnessed, but he testified about Diddy jumping on him. So for him to not have filed a civil suit, he might be the only one that hasn't filed a suit at this point. But I guess the defense is challenging that because they're asking him, you hired a civil lawyer, Mr. Dunn, to represent you, considering litigation against Mr. Combs? He said no. Defense attorney, does this documentation show that? Or does this document show that? Deonte said, it's their assumption, but no, I have counsel to protect me. I don't do federal court. Oh, so while we wait for the update, someone in the comments said, I know that's right. Someone else in the comments said, I'm reading all of his sassy answers how I imagine he's saying them. I am too. Someone said, I don't do federal court. Someone tell this man to hit me up after court. I love him so much. Someone else said, period. Someone else said, get it right. Get it right. Civil lawyers protect clients in federal court, huh? Yeah. So, like I said, this guy is definitely a character. Okay? Definitely a character. All right, we do have an update, so let's check this out. Okay, so we left off with Nash saying it's their assumption, but no, I have counsel to protect me. I don't do federal court. Defense attorney, on March 10th, 2025, did you tell Ms. Comey that you are considering a civil complaint against Mr. Combs? Deonte said no. Donaldson shows Deonte an exhibit and says, what is this? Deonte said, Cassie in the video for the mixtape. Donaldson in 1801, assuming this is another exhibit. And Dante said, Cassie and Usher. Okay, I got to add Usher to my list. I have a list of every entertainer who has been mentioned in this trial. And on what premise have they been mentioned? So let's say we have Usher now. Let's see where this goes. Cassie and Usher. Okay. That's a nice little meme of Usher. Let's see. Let's hope it's nothing more nefarious than just because everybody else who's been mentioned in this case, I think I have a list of like maybe 18 stars whose name has come up during this trial, but nobody yet has been connected to anything like that's really a part of this trial. And I really don't count Kid Cudi because, of course, we all know what that was. He was in the mix with stuff going on with Cassie and Diddy. But everybody else who's been mentioned, from Britney Spears to Prince, from Common to Pusha T, they are not connected to anything criminal or anything freaky that was mentioned, but their name came up in one way or the other during the trial. So let's see if we have another update. Okay, we don't, but there is something on CNN. So while we wait for the X thread update, I'll see if we have anything here worth mentioning. They're just updating what Nash has talked about so far. Okay, Deonte Nash, a celebrity stylist and friend of Cassie Ventura, confirmed that he hasn't filed a lawsuit or sent a demand letter to Sean Diddy Combs. Defense attorney Xavier Donaldson asked him if he was considering pursuing civil litigation against Combs. No, I'm focused on getting out of here, Nash said. Donaldson asked if Nash retained counsel to consider suing Combs. Quote, I have counsel to protect me, Nash said. I don't do federal court. Okay, well, he is saying repeatedly that he doesn't have a civil suit against Combs. So, okay. But even if he did, I mean, I know the defense attorney would then say, well, you're just saying these things because it'll, put your civil suit in a better position. So you're really just trying to cash out. That's what they've been doing with a couple of the witnesses. Not that it's really going to buy them anything. But in this particular case, Deonte Nash is saying, nah, I'm not trying to sue Diddy for nothing. I got a lawyer to protect me because y'all got me up in here. I didn't want to be in here. You had to subpoena me to make me even come here and testify because I do not want to be here, as he testified earlier. And I am not suing anybody. That's what he's saying. Somebody commented that the defense is weak. Right now, in this moment, yes. Yes. And they're being a bit repetitive too. The Usher references. All trial is proven so far. All trial proven so far is burglary. Okay, that's how somebody sees it. Somebody says defense asks yes or no questions because they have the receipts. Keep up. Okay, we'll see. Usher somewhere in Bali skating with Russell Simmons, trying to avoid any subpoenas, trying to stay clear of this FS. Okay, but seriously, continue, Donaldson. Okay. So yeah, Usher has entered the chat. Usher has entered the chat. So let's see if we have an update to see where they're going with this. Okay, no update yet. What's taking so long? Because normally when it takes this long, one of the lawyers has requested a sidebar. So we'll just wait and see. But they have showed the defense attorney has shown Deonte Nash, who is on the stand right now, who's an ex-stylist of Cassie and Usher. I mean, I'm sorry, Cassie and Diddy, and a friend of Cassie. They are showing him an exhibit, which is clearly a picture of Cassie and Usher. So where are we going here? And like I said, the list of the celebrities mentioned right now, I think my list is up to 18. Nobody has been in the mix of anything freaky at all. So we'll see. Why has Usher's name of why is there a picture of Cassie and Usher being shown to Deonte Nash? What is that about? Okay, fine. We finally got an update. Deonte Nash said this is the 2016 Bad Boy reunion show. Defense attorney, did you pick out that dress? Deonte said, I don't remember. Defense attorney, you did not start as a celebrity stylist. It was Mr. Combs who introduced you to Cassie, right? And Deonte said, I met her, Mrs. Fine. Okay. We will wait for the CNN update to know exactly what is this supposed to mean. I met her, Mrs. Fine. We don't know what that means. You didn't start as a celebrity stylist. It was that Mr. Combs introduced you to Cassie, right? Okay. still trying to see, okay, what are we missing here? So while we're waiting for a little bit more clarity, and I will again update y'all as soon as we see something from the CNN side. But Diddy looking at it would be in his best interest not to do that. Not to do that. Okay. But so I'm still waiting. So maybe that picture with Usher and Cassie at the 2016 Bad Boy reunion show was simply that, just a picture and nothing more. Someone in the comments said, told the government that he was considering a civil suit, denies it, means that prosecution wrote down wrong. Yeah, jury will believe the prosecutor over Mr. Nash. Yep, well, if the prosecution is saying that there's a civil suit, well, the prosecution, I don't even remember the prosecution saying that. It's the defense attorney who's basically challenging Deonte Nash about whether or not he has a lawyer to file a civil suit against Diddy. So I'm not really sure what this comment is meaning here, but this person has been leaving a lot of really, really good comments throughout the lives and throughout the thread. So I probably am just not comprehending whatever it is that he's trying to get across there. Because how long have we been on? Almost 3 hours. Okay, cool. Let's see if we have anything else. I really want to understand when he says Mrs. Fine, because that's Cassie's married last name, isn't it? And when he would have been involved with Cassie, it definitely would have been before she was married to her now husband. Somebody commented, as an abuser, I'm sure hearing his former employee referring to her as Mrs. Fine pisses Diddy off. Oh, I'm sure it does. They said, "Oh, what role was he hired for?" Somebody else said, "Diddy didn't start as an artist, did he?" Yeah, I'm not sure why they're asking him. You didn't start as a celebrity stylist, okay? Someone said the irony of Cassie giving birth right now. She is bringing in life while Diddy is losing his. Wow. Now that is something to say. The irony of Cassie giving birth right now. She is bringing in life while Diddy is losing his. That right there, I have to remember that. That's a quote for you right there. I know that Mrs. Fine put some respect on her name. Isn't Cassie's last name Fine? Yeah, it is now with her husband. I think her husband is Alex Fine. So, yes. Bye bye reunion. I guess this is a picture of the reunion. The meme I don't recall. Y'all all remember Woody in the YSL trial who made that response very, very popular. I don't recall. Was basically his answer to everything the prosecution asked him about. So let's see if we have any other update at this point. Not yet. Not yet. Not yet. And nor do we have an update on the CNN side. So we are still waiting to get an update from in the court or from CNN where we left off. The defense is cross-examining Deonte Nash, who is the ex-stylist to Cassie and Diddy, but he is also a friend, and even now still a friend of Cassie's. So Deonte has taken us through incidents of abuse. He's taken us through an incident where Diddy even attacked him. But he said before they took a break that he still stays in touch with Diddy and that his tone when he's talking with Diddy is a very loving one. He said that he doesn't hate Diddy. I've already talked about how it's interesting to see that pattern with some of these assistants. And so now they're asking Deonte Nash some things about a 2016 Bad Boy reunion show. And I think they're starting to ask him about his career. So we'll see. CNN has an update to say that defense attorney Xavier Donaldson asked Deonte Nash about his relationship with Miss Ventura. Mrs. Fine, Nash corrected Donaldson. Good for him. Good for him. You better do it. Now that I like. Defense attorney Xavier Donaldson asked Deonte Nash about his relationship with Miss Ventura. He said, Mrs. Fine. Nash corrected Donaldson. Some background. Ventura married Alex Fine in 2019. Earlier today, multiple news outlets reported Ventura and Fine welcomed their third child, a son. They are also the parents of two young daughters, Frankie and Sunny. I like that he did that. Yeah, because I never even really thought about how they keep calling her Cassie Ventura I guess when she filed her civil suit that she used the name Cassie Ventura, I'm assuming. But if she did, it must be because she thinks I don't know, but that's a legal document. I'm gonna have to look at that. But anyway, her ex-stylist corrected the defense attorney when he asked her about Miss Ventura, and he said Mrs. Fine. Okay. All right, see what you're doing there. So let's see if we have any update in the thread. Okay, Mrs. Fine. The defense attorney says, so it's Mr. Combs who made you a celebrity stylist. Deonte says, sure, go ahead. Defense attorney, I am going ahead. Okay. As a celebrity stylist, you pick clothes, like to Mrs. Fine's wedding. Deonte said, yes. Defense attorney, do you know Groovy Lou? Deonte said yes. Okay. So we wait. We wait for the update. This is very interesting though. Very, very, very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. I got distracted by a message. Okay. So let's see if we have any other update. Nope. Okay. Someone commented said, "Who made Diddy?" She should have said that. Someone else commented, "I love how Nash is handling them." Another person said, "From intern to stylist to music producer." Where is he going with this? I guess they mean the line of questioning. He's getting under Donaldson's skin. He definitely is getting under Donaldson's skin. That's for sure. Someone said, "I love Nash." You mean Mrs. Fine? I really liked how he did that. Stop calling her Miss Cassie Ventura. She is Mrs. Fine. I like how he did that. Feisty one you are. Yes, he is. Okay, so this is Groovy Lou, where we left the update, the last update we had. Deonte Nash was asked if he knew Groovy Lou. So this is Groovy Lou in this picture with Diddy. Let's see, we have an update on the CNN side. Let me see what is here. On cross examination, defense attorney Xavier Donaldson confirmed with Deonte Nash that he became a celebrity stylist after first being hired as an intern for Bad Boy Entertainment. Donaldson suggested Sean Diddy Combs helped Nash get his start, to which Nash said, "Go ahead, go ahead." Nash also confirmed he helped Cassie Ventura select her wedding dress. Um, and he clarified it's not Cassie Ventura, but it's Mrs. Fine. So we left off with the defense asking if Deonte Nash knew Groovy Lou, who was in this picture with Diddy. So let's see if we have any update from what's happening inside the court right now. Because where are we going? The defense better not do what they've been doing, which is start a line of questioning and then jump way over to something else. Where we're like, well, why did you ask about Groovy Lou? Okay. Good. We finally have an update. All right. So where we left off, defense attorney said you didn't start as a celebrity stylist. It was Mr. Combs introduced you to Cassie, right? And Nash replied, "I met her, Mrs. Fine." Uh, defense attorney said, "So it's Mr. Combs who made you a celebrity stylist." Deontay said, "Sure, go ahead." The defense attorney said, "I am going ahead." Yeah, he got under his skin. As a celebrity stylist, you pick clothes like for Mrs. Fine's wedding. Deontay said yes. Do you know Groovy Lou? Deontay said yes. Defense attorney. As head of Bad Boy, it was in Mr. Combs' interest that his artist Cassie looked good, right? Deontay said, I suppose. Defense attorney. And Bad Boy paid for Cassie's studio time, right? Deontay said, yes. Defense attorney. Miss Ventura can't go to the studio under Mr. And they must have meant unless. Miss Ventura can't go to the studio unless Mr. Combs pays. Okay, let's see where we're going here. I'm with this meme right now. Where are you going with this? Where are you going with this? All right. So we didn't ask about Groovy Lou, and then you jumped into this line of questioning. So this is the thing that the defense does that drives me insane. Insane. And I want to believe it's just because how we're getting the updates over the X thread that maybe we don't get to see the natural flow and it's not this disjointed. But then people who are literally in the courtroom have complained about the same thing. So I don't know. Maybe it's just worse when you're having to live off of a thread like how we are. But yeah, they drive me crazy with that. Okay, let's see if we have any update. Nope, we are still waiting. Somebody commented, where's defense going? Where's the defense going with this? They should be trying to put holes in Nash's testimony on the abuse. They can try. I feel like that'll be futile. Again, somebody said, "Where are you going with this?" Someone else commented, "Everything his explosive testimony. The defense is asking pointless questions about studio time. Pointless because Bad Boy is owned by Mr. Combs, so technically, it's him paying for it. So it technically is him paying for it." Someone commented, Nash gonna correct him. Her name is Mrs. Fine. He did that. He definitely did that when he said Ms. Ventura. He's Mrs. Fine. He did that for sure. All right, let's see if we have an update. This is yeah, we're still waiting, and there isn't anything at this point on the CNN side at all. So one thing we do know for certain is that we're not going to see Mia today. We were anticipating that we were going to be seeing Mia today, but no. And Mia is an alias. Who this person actually is, we don't know. And when they showed a picture of her to Deonte today, when he was asked if he knew her, and he said yes. When they showed it, when they presented to him in court, they did not put it on the screens because they did not want her picture to be seen. So I don't know if it's me or somebody we all know, or is she under some, I don't know, higher level of security or whatever. I don't know, but they are keeping her identity a secret. So I'm under the impression that when she does take the witness stand tomorrow, I'm assuming the people who are even doing the artwork for the trial will not be able to capture her. I'm assuming. Because right now it's like no, the name is an alias. The picture that they showed to Deonte of her today in the courtroom to answer if he knew her or not. It could not be displayed on the screens within the court, so only the people like the jury could see it, but the gallery, if you will, could not see the picture. So it just makes me curious about who is this witness. Um, So let's see if we have any other update at this point. Okay, here we go. So we left off with the defense attorney saying, and Bad Boy paid for Cassie's studio time, right? Deontay Nash said yes. Defense attorney, Miss Ventura can't go to the studio unless Mr. Combs pays. What is young and reckless? He must have meant young and yeah, okay, well maybe he did. What is young and reckless? Deontay Nash said a streetwear clothing brand. Cassie owned a part of it. Defense attorney, Mr. Combs had nothing to do with it. Deontay said he had to approve everything. Defense attorney, wasn't Banner, and this is Brianna Bongolin involved? And Deontay Nash said as a stylist. So this is yet again another one of those moments where I have no idea where's this defense team going. So let's see. We got an update on the CNN side. So let's see if it helps us to understand better. During cross-examination, celebrity stylist Deontay confirmed that a music label like Bad Boy Entertainment had an interest in making sure that artists appeared a certain way. Defense attorney Donaldson asked Nash if it was important for the person running the label to make sure an artist's clothing looked good. And Dash responded, sometimes, yeah. Okay. Okay. I don't know. Are these dots that they're going to connect to something significant later? Are these dots that the defense is putting before the jury because somehow some of this is going to be a part of their closing statement? I don't know. Because right now it's just feeling like a bunch of nothing, y'all. It's just feeling like a bunch of nothing. Isn't that the girl Diddy dangled over the balcony? Brianna Bongolian. Wasn't I'm trying to remember. Was she the one he dangled over the balcony? Because that name does sound familiar. Her X account. Boy, I tell you, the people in these comments on this X thread, they know they be on the mission. Controlling, controlling, controlling is a theme. Someone else said he controlled it all. Diddy is a micromanager. Ciao. And then some. Justice for Robert Brooks. Somebody said, damn, definitely didn't know this. So she had a whole career, toured with Ryan Leslie first, then signed the Bad Boy and was able to be a model and make money that way. And she had Young and Reckless. She had her own money. We knew that already. I see where they're going to go. Okay, I don't know about all that. Cassie. Um, I would definitely agree that her life took a detour for sure when she got connected with Diddy. I used to wear that brand and love the bun. Okay, we're not doing that either. Um, okay, so this is it. Yes, she is a person that filed a lawsuit, say that he was dangling her off of a 17th floor balcony. What? What? So let's see. If we have an update, we'll go to the update. But if not, we might need to come back to that article. So let's see if we have an update. Okay, so we're still talking about some questions that is going to arise from her being a stylist. Okay. Let's see if it will let us go into this article. Oh no, they don't have the link. But accused of dangling her has filed a lawsuit alleging that he dangled her off of a 17th floor balcony. Let's see if we can pull up something about that while we're waiting for an update. Um, they're going to 4 o'clock today, y'all. They normally end court around 3:30, but today they are going to end at 4 just so they can finish up the testimony from Deonte Nash. Okay. That is from trying to make sure we get this story from a reliable source. Okay. Yep. I see it here right on Associated Press. So let me go back to our X feed right quick and just make sure we don't have an update. All right. They were moving. The person in the courtroom for Inner City Press was moving a lot quicker this morning when the prosecution was asking, in the defense for that matter. But I don't know, moving kind of slow right now. Let's see what we have here. Okay. So we left from Miss Ventura, asked about Bonna. That's the lady who Diddy allegedly dangled over a 17th floor balcony. And Deonte said he knew her as a stylist. Defense attorney Donaldson said, who else were you styling for in 2016? Deonte said, Cassie, Puff, Mace, and Lil Kim. All right. Two more people to add to the list, Mace and Lil Kim. Okay. Where were we? All right. Defense attorney, major artist, and on the mixtape, you were executive producer, but got no credit. Meek Mill was on the mixtape. Deonte said yes. Donaldson said Pusha T. Deonte said yes. So now we have, I don't know if is this the first time? Let me see if this is the first time Meek Mill was mentioned, because I feel like, yeah, this might be the first time Meek Mill was mentioned. So He designed for Mason Little Kim, and supposedly he was somewhat of a producer on an album that included Meek Mill and Pusha T. Okay. All right, let's see what we got next. All right, he said yes to that. Let's see if we got any other update. Nope. So let's just go back and see what some of the comments are saying about this. So again, the defense attorney asked, "Who else were you styling for in 2016?" Deonte Nash said Cassie, Puff, Mace, and Lil Kim. Defense attorney said major artists. And on the mixtape, you were executive producer but got no credit. Meek Mill was on the mixtape. He said yes. Donaldson said Pusha T. He said yes. Uh, and I don't think we have an update since then. Nope. So while we wait, let's see. Comment here. Question. It was in Mr. Combs' interest that his artist Cassie looked good, right? Answer by Nash, I suppose. This answer is not good by Mr. Nash. He seems unwilling to admit even to the slightest things. Of course, in theory, it is in Diddy's best interest. Wrong time, wrong fight. All right. Uh, I don't know if the jury even cares. That might have been absolutely nothing to the jury. Someone said, is he implying that since Diddy paid for the studio time, he wasn't hindering her career? Could be. Could be because they have spent some of their time over the last 2 days emphasizing the things that Cassie was provided, whether it was resources, access to experts who knew how to create stars. Earlier in the trial when Cassie was on the stand, they rattled off a list to her to confirm of people Diddy had literally put her in the studio with. And that list included people like Nicki Minaj and Lil Wayne. And they were trying to suggest at that time that if your career didn't take off, if your music career didn't take off the way you would have liked, it isn't because Diddy got in the way of your music career. In fact, you had advantages and access to people that you would have never had were it not for your relationship with Diddy. So this is what the defense is pushing. And the defense also pushed when they were questioning Cassie about this, basically saying to her, it was really your talent. It was really your talent that did not allow your career to take off because you were given a lot of access. And Capricorn Clark kind of doubled down on that, unprompted by any questions from the defense. They asked her if she thought Cassie was talented, but then she just kind of went into comparing her or saying she wasn't no Whitney Houston or Mariah Carey, and that she was a studio artist and her voice needed to be equalized. And then she said Cassie was given more resources and access to experts, whether it was producers, choreographers, songwriters. She had all the access, and she had more access than other bad boy artists. So, intentional or not, Capricorn Clark helped support what the defense is trying to say to the jurors, is that do not believe them when they tell you that Diddy hindered her career. Diddy was an advantage to her career. Y'all see, did y'all not hear the people say? Did y'all not hear Cassie even agree that yes, she did go into the studio with Nicki Minaj, Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, Pusha T. She did do music with them. It didn't take off because she's just not that talented. So that's what the defense is trying to push. So yeah, I think any opportunity the defense can just try to say he did not hinder her career, they're trying to do that. Now I think they're trying to make lemonade out of lemons because in the grand scheme of things, that's a losing battle, I feel. But let's see if we have any other update here. Let's see where we left off. Okay, here's where we left off. Again, the defense attorney was asking major artists, and on the mixtape, you were executive producer but got no credit. Meek Mill was on the mixtape. Deonte said yes. Defense attorney Pusha T. Deonte said yes. Deonte then said, "Can I take a break?" And the judge said yes. Mr. Donaldson, how much more? No way I'll be finished. Oh, Donaldson said, no way I'll be finished by 4. Judge, did you know that before I told the jury it'd be four? Donaldson said, I didn't know. Well, we'll go to four and I'll rebook. Okay. Well, now the judge probably doesn't like that. The judge held the jury over, but he did say he had told them before that on some days they could end up wrapping up at 4 o'clock. But the prosecutor had, I'm sorry, the defense attorney had said they could wrap up if they, extended the day to 4 o'clock with Deonte, the end of the day. But now he's saying he's going to need more time. So I guess when everything kicks back off tomorrow, especially with Deonte now taking a break and it's 3:24, that we'll pick back up with Deonte, and then we will finally get to Mia. Yeah, because let's see, they don't have, okay, it's when it's Thursday. So yeah, court should be in session tomorrow. Oh, no, the judge doesn't like that. So they're on this break right now. Let me hop over to CNN and read for y'all what their update is saying. Okay, nothing. It's just saying that they're on a 10-minute break. So I don't know. I would say just the testimony today has been, it felt like, especially with the earlier testimony from the police officer and the arson investigator, it felt like a bunch of nothing, right? I do think it was interesting when the arson investigator said that the fingerprint card that was associated with the investigation with the arson, the fire but Kid Cudi's car, got destroyed by the LAPD in 2012. And there were some more questions. The defense ended up asking for a mistrial because they felt like what had been implied to with the jury present is that if this fingerprint card was destroyed, that Diddy had something to do with getting it destroyed. So the judge, of course, did not honor the request for a mistrial, but he did instruct the jury to basically act like you didn't hear that. And that information, as far as the questions that we're talking about, how did it happen, who did it, whatever, he wanted the jury to disregard that information, and he advised that should not be a part of anything that they are considering. So that happened today. The first request for a mistrial by the defense, that happened today. Of course, the prosecution said the request was totally unwarranted. Okay. Deonte Nash now has been on the stand for a little bit, and he gave a lot of testimony around more violent incidents with Cassie. He was very descriptive in what happened. Very descriptive on like things that Diddy would call her, how he would walk into a room, cursing her out, grabbing her by her hair, dragging her by her hair, the time she needed stitches. And it's just, so he's been very descriptive on the stand. And now we're in this part of the cross-examination of Deonte by the defense. And right now, it's just feeling like, what are y'all trying to accomplish? Because these questions are like, it is very unclear where they are going. And it is very unclear as to what is the value of these questions. What is the value of these questions? What I plan to do is, after today's live stream is over, I want to do a little bit more homework on these charges and be a little bit more clear on what is required in order for the level of proof. What is the level of proof required in some of these charges? Meaning, like, if you're going to say someone is guilty of racketeering, what are some of the things that have to be there in order for the people to be able to say guilty? Because listening to all these lawyers talk, clearly there's a list. Okay, because they are talking about, okay, there's a list of X number of things, and if you're found of that there was force, or there was I don't know, different things they're rattling off, right? And from what they're saying, as long as you can check off, I don't know, there's a couple of those things, then that person could be found guilty of like RICO or racketeering. I need some better explanation, because there's also the information of people saying, in order to prove racketeering, even if this person is doing a whole lot of different crimes and maybe found guilty of those other charges associated, like if there's a kidnapping charge with Diddy, some would say, okay, there's been enough evidence now for the jury to really consider that, and for them to perhaps even find him guilty. Okay. But with the racketeering charge, what has always been stated by several quote unquote experts is that you have to show that these crimes that he has been engaged with, these crimes are for the furtherance of a criminal enterprise to show racketeering. That's the part that's tripping me up. And that's the part that I think is tripping up a lot of folks, because if that is true, that you can roll out a laundry list of crimes that this person is guilty of. But if you're going to tie those crimes also to a racketeering charge, you have to show that those crimes were in the furtherance of a criminal enterprise. And I have not seen that. So that's why I say I'm going to do my homework on these charges, also try to get a better understanding of what is the criteria. All right, because everybody's saying a lot of things, but I want to see for myself. What is it? All right. The testimony from Deonte today, and the very specific incidents again around, the violence against Cassie. Diddy also put his hands on him in an incident. Again, all bad. Just like the other incidents have been, all bad. And I felt when he was describing the incident, a couple of the incidents with Cassie, and they're very different. They're different from the other incidents as far as who's present, uh, what was happening, the words that this person was saying Diddy was using when the abuse was going down. But in that moment when I was like reading this testimony for the first time, I honestly felt like, even if they can't prove racketeering, send them away for life. Send them away for life. Now that's not how the justice system is supposed to work, they say. But we'll see. We'll see. Because like I said, he's going to prison. To me, he's going to prison. For on which charges and for how long, that's the question. Those are the questions. But he's going to prison. And getting a little bit ahead of myself, I know for sure, I still feel that if he goes to prison, that Donald Trump will be giving him a pardon. So we'll see if that happens. So let's go back to the X feed and see if we have any update at this point in time. I wonder how Deonte is going to feel about knowing they're going to have to rebook his flight, because I think he was ready to get this over with so he can go back to LA. But no, he's going to have to come back tomorrow based off of what the defense attorney is saying. So could they possibly be still on break? Come on. If the break was okay, they were supposed to be on a 10-minute break, and that was 11 minutes ago. So hopefully they'll be back in the courtroom soon. Because it's 3:33 at this point. If you were going to give them this long of a break, you might as well just end it today, since you now have to call Deonte Nash back tomorrow anyway. They could have let the people go at 3:30, let the jury go. that judge sounded a little bit annoyed because the defense said that they could be wrapped by 4 with this witness, and that has not turned out to be the case. So let's just check and see if we have an update. No, we don't. I like this meme. Somebody said, "I'm tired." LOL. I too. By the end of the day, especially when the testimony is like this, when the testimony is like this, it can make the eyelids a bit heavy. Okay. Okay, we're not gonna do that. Somebody said we're gonna need somebody to go find his ass to keep him here another day. No, you're not, because the prosecutors are gonna pay for this. Where you think you going? We got questions, 4 bites, 4 chews of the snack, and let's hustle back, jurors. Chop chop. Now I am in agreement with that. Come on, y'all. Come on. What y'all need? Let me see how long these people been on a break. Okay, 12 minutes ago. This break's supposed to be 10 minutes. Where y'all at? Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. The prosecution said they didn't want to have to rebook Deonte's flight, but they don't have, or hotel, but they don't have any other choice now. They have no other choice. So we are still waiting for them to return back from break. Somebody asked, does anyone know why Cassie is referred to as Cassie Ventura rather than Cassie Fine, since she is married now? That was her name at the time of the alleged crimes and the time period. So a lot of people refer to her as they know her by name. Okay. Name by then. So I guess she might be looking at it like her stage name in a way. I guess that's the case. Let's see if anything else. All right. Y'all, let's hope that we have some movement in the court. Let's hope we do. I see that there's an update from CNN. Okay. Maybe they're back. Okay, Nash is back on the stand. Deonte Nash is back on the stand wearing a jacket he didn't have on before. It is freezing in here. How do you all do this all day? He said. The jury is now entering. Okay. All right, we only have a few more minutes to go because, like I said, the judge had advised the jury that he was going to hold them until 4 today. So it's 3:36 Eastern Standard Time. So not much longer to go. Not much longer to go. All right. Let me just make sure we're up to date here. Okay. Defense attorney, nice coat. Deonte Nash, thank you. Defense attorney, what size? Deonte said, not your size. Donaldson said, right answer. Mr. Combs was the final decision maker. Final decision said, no, some of them look terrible. You are friends with Mrs. Fine? And he said, yes. Okay, we'll see what CNN says about that. But it's funny how the defense attorney now is trying to call Cassie Mrs. Fine, since Deonte Nash corrected them when they said Miss Ventura and he said Mrs. Fine. So that's interesting. Yeah, don't agitate your witness, or don't agitate the witness. All right. Okay, so we're waiting. We are waiting. This guy, though, is a trip. I would love to see him in an interview. I would love to see him in an interview. Don't go there. Yeah. He definitely has a lot of personality. Okay? A lot of personality. Let me just check and make sure. Okay, still the update from the court. Yeah. I wonder if the attorney, I mean not the attorney, I wonder if the judge too is feeling some kind of way about the line of questioning this afternoon from the defense because it doesn't appear to really be going anywhere, and it just feels like a waste of time. But hey, I'm no lawyer, but it feels like a waste of time. Um, and we're just here, just waiting on an update. And I apologize to y'all if my energy sounds a little what it sounds like because yeah, I'm starting to kind of lose it here. All right, who are the megastars? It's behind a paywall. The unbelievable photograph of two female megastars that's buried in Diddy evidence files. I don't care about it. I don't even I hate I even read it up in my live because what I don't want to do is not that not that my lives has have that kind of traction or anything, but I still don't want to I don't want to contribute to any kind of salacious rumors that, are harmful to other people. If it's something in a file that we're not supposed to see, I don't want to see it. If we're not supposed to see it, I don't want to see it. Okay? I do not. So, all right, someone said Mr. Combs was the final decision making. No, some of the looks. Okay, so we don't know. Crazy how a lot of these people got their careers off Craigslist, not a college. And maybe that was the thing, especially maybe for entertainment industry type jobs. Maybe it was like less the traditional route. I don't know. All right, let's see if we have any other update at this point. Finally, yes. Okay. Defense attorney, when's the last time you spoke with, I'm going to say Bonner? He said yesterday, not about testimony, right? Uh, Deonte said, right. She saw it on the news. Defense attorney, when did you speak with Cassie? Nash said yesterday. I congratulated her on having the baby. Okay. So is that a problem? If you're going to testify in this hearing, are you told that you cannot talk to like certain people? Is that a problem? Um, I don't know what the defense is trying to paint. Are they trying to paint collusion? I don't know what they're trying to do, but I need them to hurry up and get to it because they are like exhausting right now. Exhausting. Okay. Someone said he's not allowed to be friends with them now. Right. That's what I'm trying to understand. Like, okay. Wake up in the morning feeling like P. Diddy. Boy, I don't know what that means. Congrats, Cassie. Yeah, Cassie has a baby boy. She dropped congrats. I'm not sure if she'll be so willing and ready to spill about him talking to other witnesses, but hey, he's under oath. Not too much, Nash. It ain't their business. Somebody said he's still a girl's girl. What about it? Ain't the jury not supposed to know about her pregnancy? That's a crazy question. This woman has gotten on the witness stand in front of the jury. What you mean? They already know she was pregnant. When she was on the stand, she looked like she was about to pop at any time. I was wondering if that would come in. Okay. Come on. That what? What? I mean, the defense asked, when did you speak with Cassie? He said yesterday I congratulated her on having the baby. I don't hear a objection by the prosecution. Well, why would they object? It's a benefit for them. Okay, we do have another update here. When did you speak with Cassie? The defense attorney asked. Deonte Nash said yesterday I congratulated her on having the baby. Defense attorney, you saw her take drugs? Deonte Nash said cocaine, ecstasy, and MDMA. Defense attorney, mushrooms and acid. Deonte said, I'm not like privy to that. Defense attorney, not to get into your business. You have used cocaine? Deonte Nash said, yes. That's a weird question. Not to get in your business, but have you used cocaine? That is just a that's an interesting sentence. Okay. Let's see what CNN has over here. CNN says Deonte Nash said Diddy Combs did not approve looks for bad boy entertainment artists other than Ventura. Hmm. That's a good point for the prosecution. Deonte said that Diddy did not approve looks for bad boy entertainment artists other than Ventura. He said he didn't think other artists had anyone approve their looks. Nash said, quote, not that I know of because some of them look terrible. Most of the artists kind of did their own thing. Okay. So where the defense was trying to say when Diddy approved her looks, it was just part her different outfits had to be approved by him. It was just a part of the business. This is just a part of record company mogul trying to make sure that his artists were looking the part when they were out representing, performing, etc. And Deonte said, I don't know anything about that because I'm not aware of anybody else getting anything approved by Diddy. The only person he wanted to see the outfits before they were worn was Cassie. So that helps the prosecution right there. Celebrity stylist Nash said he last spoke to Cassie Ventura yesterday after she had her baby to tell her congratulations. Okay. So we left off with the defense attorney asking Deonte Nash, had he ever done cocaine? And now we're waiting. Oh, didn't mean to do that. So let's see if I can get. Okay. Someone said he is so making it into his business in the world, as a matter of fact. Okay. Lord, everything is digging into the booger sugar. Someone else said, how long until the defense just asked if Puff could take them all for dinner and forget about it? Can we just go out for dinner and forget all this ever happened? What is okay. I just noticed what the little bitty was doing. Okay. Someone else said, why it seems like the defense is trying to grab at straws. Buddy, you keep going in circles. True. Next question bet not be, did you steal coke from them? Because he might just have a 5-day kidnapping river talk, lie detector test story for you. Stay clear of that line of questioning. Continue, Donaldson. Right? Again, we know she took drug buddies. I'm not privy to that. Okay. Yeah. I mean, okay, he took cocaine. I am of the opinion that every single person working for Diddy was taking something. All these assistants got up here, they were taking something. They were on something, okay? Some type of drug, some kind of whatever. So I'm almost starting to think it was a requirement to work for Diddy that you had to be willing to at least recreationally take some kind of substance. Because all these people have acknowledged that they too were taking some substances. Okay. Let's see if we have an update. And yes, we do. All right. So we left off with the defense attorney asking Deonte not to get into your business. Have you used cocaine? Deonte said, yes. Defense attorney, you smoked pot before meeting prosecutors? Deonte said, yes. And Maureen cut it short. Defense attorney, you told her you were high? Deonte, that I was smoking. Defense attorney, making a video costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. Deonte said, not necessarily. Okay. So Deonte then got out here when he had to meet with the prosecutors. The meeting was cut short because he had been smoking and he was buzzing a little bit. Okay. And now the defense attorney is going into the making of videos. Y'all, see this is what I'm talking about. Where are we going? What dots are you putting down that we should be able to start seeing some kind of thread connect them? What's happening right now? What is happening right now? CNN hasn't even bothered to update anything because what is really happening right now? What is really happening right now? Someone said Donaldson, that's a defense attorney, is a snooze. Diddy before versus Diddy after he arrives in prison. Oh, that is bad. Someone else said you were high meeting prosecutors. Thought he was Snoop Dogg. Gotta be high dealing with this strange BS. Medical marijuana is legal. Next question. Smoking before meeting with prosecutors. That is wow. Why does it matter whether he smoked or not? Legal for him to do. Just trying to discredit him. Good point. Trying to discredit Nash because of drug use. Still bored. Not me rolling one whilst reading this. Not me. Not me rolling one whilst reading this. Oh, whilst. Why not? Just wow. Someone else said you can make a professionally looking video for a fraction of that if you know what to do. Someone else said this lawyer man. Yeah, it is like if you were tired before, you damn sure exhausted by now after getting through with this defense. Okay, we're still at the point where they were being Deonte was being asked about a lawyer. I'm sorry, about making a video. Defense attorney said making a video costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Deonte said not necessarily. Okay. Someone commented, was smoking or high before meeting with prosecutors? Yeah, such a serious witness. Yeah, I think I don't think this means that the defense attorney that the jurors are not going to take him seriously. Because you know what? Yeah, I mean, it is kind of wild that you got high before you had to go meet with the prosecutors. But like I said, um all all of the witnesses called by the prosecution, especially the assistants, they were into something, some type of substance. They were. They might have been doing it before they ever met Diddy. But all of these people have talked about, especially these assistants, have talked about their own utilization of substances. So if that's a deal breaker, then the jury would be looking at all of them, like all of their testimony is suspect because of that. So I don't think because of the nature of the people we're talking about and how it does appear that drugs was not only just a part of what Cassie and Diddy was doing, but it also feels like the cast of people around them were also into it to some extent or another. I don't see that rattling this jury. So let's see if we have anything else. Not yet. If we're lucky, the judge will just go ahead and put everybody out of their misery and just end this day. Because it is now 3:53 Eastern Standard Time. Let's see, we got a new update for CNN. Deonte testified that he had seen Cassie Ventura take drugs, including Molly and ecstasy at times inside of her home. Nash testified that he smokes marijuana. He said one of his meetings with prosecutors was cut short after told them he had smoked beforehand. Okay. Okay. Come on, Judge. End this for us. End this for us. In today's trial for us. Because they are not talking about anything. They are just simply not. At this point, I would rather let's just pick up with the defense attorney in the morning because they're not talking about anything. Okay, let's go back up and see if we have uh, maybe something. Yeah, nope, still waiting. Still waiting. So I am hoping that why we haven't received an update is that perhaps in real time, the judge is getting ready to wrap this whole thing up because it's taking them a long time. A long time. And so we know we're going to see Mia on the stand tomorrow, who is, from what I understand, an ex employee of Diddy and also a victim of Diddy, is what she's alleging that she is a victim of Diddy. So I know she is supposed to be on the stand. She was supposed to actually hit the stand today, but they ran over. So we'll definitely see her tomorrow. But the way it's going right now, Deonte will be back with us tomorrow morning, and then we'll have Mia. At least that's the thought right now. Unless something changes tonight between these lawyers. So we'll have to see. Uh, let me check and see if we have any update. Nope. We do not have an update, and I am optimistic that that means that the judge is about to wrap this thing up for the day. Okay. Yeah. Because we're nothing's happening right now. Nothing at all is happening right now. Yeah. Someone said, y'all get what's going on here. The defense earlier pointed out that multiple meetings with prosecutors had to be cut short with this witness. Now we find out it's because the witness was so obviously stoned, it had to be stopped. I smoke weed, but this looks absurd. Yeah. The question is, though, will this make the defense, not the defense, will this make the jury feel that Deonte Nash is not a credible witness because he had smoked marijuana before he had to go and talk to the prosecutors? I don't know. I don't know. Uh, let's see. We have a CNN update, so let's see what it is. Defense attorney Xavier Donaldson walked Deonte Nash, a celebrity stylist and friend of Cassie, through his testimony about Diddy, about the time Diddy attacked Ventura in her apartment while they were packing for the music festival in Canada around 2013. Nash said he jumped on Combs's back, trying to pull him off Ventura to protect her from him, but also said he did it to, quote, protect him from doing something more serious. Okay. Celebrity stylist testifies he jumped on Combs's back to protect Ventura during 2013 apartment attack. I'm not really. I don't know what if the defense does the defense know something we don't know, and they're getting ready to ask him something about what I just read that will somehow be a point for the defense because I'm not tracking. Let's go back and see if we have anything. No, we're still waiting for them to update. What I just read to y'all was for CNN. But see, this is what I'm talking about. How do you jump from talking about a video and the cost of it, how much it can cost to make a video, to then talking about what happened? It's just, I need them to wrap this day up. And you know what? I intentionally started this live late today because I wanted to give them time to have some testimony, just so that we don't have like this pause we're going through right now because we're waiting for the X feed, the update. Like we don't have so many of those because so much testimony would have already happened. I could just kind of fly through, what has happened so far today because of these type moments right here. They are a bit much. And this one is pretty prolonged. So I'm wondering what exactly is happening. Because we're not getting anything right now. Yeah. I don't know what the deal is, y'all, but we are not getting any updates right now from inside the court. I keep checking. Yeah, I keep checking, but no. No, no, no. Yeah. Yeah. So we're just waiting around and waiting for there to be an update from inside the court. It is my hope, with it being 4 o'clock, that this judge has already ended this trial, and that's why we're just kind of out here in limbo because we're just somebody just forgot to tell us on the X thread that it's the end of the day. Matter of fact, let me check some of my other sources and see if they're still on because that will probably tell us something. Just a second while I check to see has the trial ended today. Mm, yeah. I don't see anything from anybody saying that court has ended for today. But I tell you what, this prolonged pause makes you think it has. Okay, finally we have an update. All right, so we left off where the defense attorney said you told her you were high. This is about Deonte Nash being high when he went to meet with the prosecutors. And Deonte said that I was smoking. Defense attorney said making a video costs hundreds of thousands of dollars. And Deonte Nash said not necessarily. Defense attorney, who was Mia? Deonte said Puff's assistant. Defense attorney, you and Mia jumped on Mr. Combs to protect Cassie from him, right? Deonte said, and to protect him from doing something worse. Defense attorney, and D Rock tried to protect you and not protect Mr. Combs? Yes. So you mean to tell me D Rock finally stepped up and did something? Because it sounded to me from how Cassie testified and some of the other witnesses testified, security didn't really get involved ever. They would stand there and watch her take a beating, watch other people take a beating, and not get involved at all. So I think it's very interesting that D-Rock finally gets involved to try to protect the stylist, the male stylist, and not do anything to protect Cassie getting beat. This stuff is just too much. It is just too much. Come on, Judge, come through and say this is it for today. Because this defense line of questioning is really starting to be an irritant. Let's see if we okay. Thank you, Judge. So the judge said we're at 4 p.m. The judge, who are the witnesses after Mia? We think she'll go long, but after her, Enrique Santos. After today, Mr. Agnifilo gave you exhibits by 5. Why only? We only go back to us. Okay. All right. So the jury has left. Court has ended for today. Thank God. Because I felt this trial, the latter part of it especially, was sucking my life. on my body. Okay. So tomorrow we're going to pick back up with Deonte Nash. Then we're going to go into Mia. And then we're going to go, and they said she's going to go long. So I'm assuming Mia may be on the stand all day tomorrow. And then we go into somebody called Enrique Santos. I have no idea who that is, but I'm going to check and see who that is. Thank you all so much. I'm not going to hold you any longer. Thanks to everybody who dropped by this live, spent any amount of time in this live with me. I appreciate it. Please like the live, leave a comment. And if you're not a subscriber, please consider subscribing. I do appreciate the support. I will see you all back tomorrow for day 12 of the Diddy trial, where we pick back up with Mr. Deonte. So until the next time, bye, y'all.